This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the afternoon safari. We're giving you a view of the beautiful blue skies because, well, there's not been blue sky in quite some time now. The sun is finally out and we are here to enjoy it. So it's that time of day. You need to put your seatbelts on because it's your live safari through the African bush. Welcome on board. Isn't the blue sky just glorious? Just taking a moment to get my own vitamin D. Because, well, it's been very overcast for days now, even when I was in Joburg in Cape Town. The sun was really not out, but it's out today. My name is Lauren, and I do have Simon on camera today. A big welcome to Simon. And I'm just considering my plans for the afternoon. I think we are going to go into Buffelshoek and see what we can find. So, let's drive and get there. But first of all, most importantly, it's a live safari, as I'm sure you all know. So you must talk to us. You must send in all your comments and questions, anything that you want to know about the African bush, and you send that in using the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter or the @FC on the YouTube chat stream, or you can even send or go to the website wildearth.tv/explorers to answer your questions. Now you see this wonderful sign. We were never ever allowed to pass that, and now we can. So into Buffelshoek we go to see what we can find. I believe Dark Mane Evoca is on a hippo carcass. Yes, a hippo carcass. I don't know how much is left, or I don't actually even know what happened to that hippo. So we're going to see if we can say hi to Dark Mane and see what else we can find around Buffelshoek this afternoon. So I'm very much looking forward to hearing from you all. It was such an exciting morning, I have to say. Bumping into the Talamatis, then getting to see a glimpse of June's cub. How precious, how really, really precious. So I will probably end my drive today back at the Hyena Den. I'm not going to lie. So that's my plan, but as you know in the bush, well, things never really go to plan. So it's quite windy, to give you some context of the day, but it's a nice toasty 25 degrees Celsius, 77 degrees Fahrenheit, so we will survive. Now, every termite mound I go past, I'm stopping, because I've mentioned before, I'm desperate to spend some time with termites. But for some reason, they're there. The termites are always there. You have the mounds, but they're under. Normally when it's winter and it's cold and they haven't received enough moisture yet, they're sort of in their nest. They don't actually live in a termite mound. Termite mound is a wonderful structure, but that's not really their home. Their home is the nest underneath the termite mound. So normally the termites themselves are actually underground. And it's only during summer, especially when there's been enough moisture, that you'll find that they come out and they start to do all sorts of weird and wonderful jobs for the ecosystem out here. But I've not seen any termites yet, so I'm going to keep stopping at every single termite mound that we come to. Okay, I need to get my bearings in Buffelshoek. I've not been here for a few weeks. Yes, it is this way. Rosalind, you are asking me a question, and I shall get that repeated one more time. And then I shall answer it for you. I don't know Buffelshoek too well. We do travel with a map. Like this. Sometimes we drive like this. Sorry, Gwen, I am not understanding you at all. What's something at Djuma? I'm not doing very well today. The camera's on me. The pressure's on. Highest temperature. Woo! Third time lucky. I don't actually know the overall highest temperature throughout the years, but I know last year we were pushing around 44 to 45 degrees Celsius. Now, I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. My brain doesn't really work in Fahrenheit, to be honest with you. But last summer, we were pushing temperatures of 44 to 45 degrees Celsius last year. But I don't actually know the overall, throughout the year's highest temperature ever recorded, but it was extremely hot. Almost too hot, unbearable. And I love the sun. I'm slightly reptilian that way, but it was unbearable. And I remember a time in Maldives, we were having something that was called equinox, and the temperatures were so incredibly high that every member of staff was actually given a candle, and you kept that candle outside your bedroom, your sort of the house that you lived in, and if that candle melted, you know that the temperatures were far too high and you were not allowed to sort of go outside that day. You were to stay inside. If the candle didn't melt, then you know that the temperatures were okay to be outside. And they didn't melt, so we went outside. Okay, I need to focus on looking for some animals. Darkmane is said to be at Ngala Dam, and hopefully he's still there. I imagine if he's full of delicious hippo, he will still be there. Avatar, the rarest animal. In Djuma, I can only really speak for Djuma. I would say one of the rarest animals, there's many across the different groups, would be an aardvark. One was seen not so long ago, believe it or not, on Buffelshoek, but it's not a common occurrence to see them. We see signs of them, we know that they dig into the burrows and the mounds, but we definitely don't see them. Not like Tswalu, at Porcupines are quite rare. Marcel, Davy and I got very lucky one night with a porcupine sighting, but they are also incredibly rare. And pangolins, we do get pangolins in this area, believe it or not. One was found on a property called Shelley's not so long ago. But again, it's few and far between. What other animals are incredibly rare? I would say they're probably the rarest species that you would find out here. You would have to get extremely lucky. And of course, they're primarily nocturnal. And it's not that they come out when the sun sets and stay out all night. They have a specific window of time. I see you, Impala. How can I position for you? So they only come out at a specific window, let's just say from 1 a.m. Can you get them from here, Simon? Maybe I'll go forward just a tad. And maybe they go back inside at about 3 a.m. Hello, Impala. There's actually a giraffe in the background there as well. Way in the distance. We've managed to find 2 different species. Oh. Are you males having a standoff? The male in the background doesn't look too sure. He's also urinating, I think. Or the other one, I can't quite see. Now, I do carry this with me regularly, but I'm going to show you because it gives such a wonderful insight into Impala horns. But maybe we shall come back to that in just a moment. For now, I'm going to send you across to some sleepy lions.
Good afternoon, everybody, and a very warm welcome to andBeyond and Ngala. We have started off incredibly well. We are staring at this big male lion who was watching us, and he's literally just put his head back down. But it's a fan favorite of WildEarth. This is one of the Pride members of the Birmingham Pride. So welcome to Ngala. What a fantastic way to start off the afternoon. My name is Eric. Behind camera is BK. And like I was mentioning, we've got this beautiful sub-adult or young male lion who is sitting, and every now and again he picks up his head and he starts looking in the direction that we're facing. And the reason being is that the whole pride is here. And so we'll pan across and we'll get you to have a look at the pride who's literally just picked up their heads. We decided to focus in on that young male because he was the only one with his head up, but now it looks like something has stirred all of the youngsters. You see, so there are about 3 or 4 of them that have got their heads up, and then the rest of them are all quite docile and sleeping. And this is such exciting news because we have, for the first time, seen them in the last 8 days. So they've been gallivanting away in the Kruger National Park to the east of us, and late this morning one of the rangers was lucky enough to find the pride, which is really cool, so we get to see them again. And this is the first time in a month that I've seen them, so I'm quite excited to see how much those young sub-adults have grown. It's a windy day, and where they've settled down underneath one of these big trees is nice and open. And before we got here, we had lots of wildebeest and impala that were slowly grazing through this area. So I think that might have been something that just sparked their interest. They might have smelt or heard or seen either an impala or a wildebeest in the area. But it seems like it's still too hot, too light, and they are all going back resting and just enjoying this nice cool breeze for a change. As we start panning on left, you'll see more and more of them. So those are all of the sub-adults. And then there are the 2 famous white lions of the pride, and they're right next to 2 of the adult females. And somewhere in there is one of the dominant males of the pride. And I think it's the one on the back left-hand side, if I'm not mistaken. You might just be able to see behind its ears and on top of the head. Yeah, that's the mane. It actually looks like both of the brothers are here. So the 2 behind on the left and right of the young female are the 2 males of the pride. And no wonder this young male's decided to separate himself. He's just not wanting to pick a fight with them. So separating himself and being maybe about 30 or 40 meters away from them gives him that safety. And so we will hang around here and see if any movement does happen. But in the meantime, Matt has got another spotted cat, so let's go see what that is.
Good afternoon, everybody, and a warm welcome to andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve, where we've managed to find a cheetah mother and her 3 tiny little cubs. It's the same ones that Deelwald managed to find the other day, and we this morning saw them briefly cross the road, and Mom was looking quite hungry with a relatively thin belly. And this afternoon we've come out to a similar area and we've managed to find them with full bellies. My name is Matt, and behind the camera we've got Odie. And I think, we likewise today are going to do the same thing as Eric and spend a little time here and see if we don't manage to get a bit of a view of these little honey badger looking cheetah cubs. You might just be able to see their tiny little heads in that patch of shade. It is still an extremely hot afternoon here on Phinda. There's a little bit of a breeze blowing, and they found a lovely patch of shade in quite a nice open area, not too far from our airstrip, where Mom is able to see predators and other things from a distance, and if she has to, she can get away in time. But you might just be able to see 3 tiny little fluffy faces lying in the shade on the left-hand side of Mom. Linda, you are quite chuffed about the spots, so are we, and they've only just started developing their spots. These little cheetah cubs there on the left-hand side. Mom's lying away from us, but you can see a bit of a bulge in her belly, and she's panting relatively hard, which tells us that she did manage to catch something, and if whatever it was that she caught, she would have eaten it quite quickly, and the 3 youngsters would have done the same, had their little mouthful. I can't imagine that they would have had much because they are still really small, but they would have eaten as fast as they can, as quickly as they can, and as much as they can, and then they would have left that carcass, because on a day like today when it's still quite hot, it's going to start smelling and attracting the unwanted attention from things like hyena, maybe yesterday in the same place on the airstrip. We saw 2 jackal, and even at that age, jackal might give a mom like this with such young cubs a run for her money. But amazing to see, and they do still have that very distinct sort of black and white coat of theirs. It's still quite tricky to see because they are lying in the shade. But as it starts to cool off, she might get up and move around a little bit more. I can imagine this is going to be on everyone's agenda this afternoon. That's driving guests from around the lodges. But we are in no rush as of yet. We are ahead of the field today. So we can wait a little bit and see where she ends up if she does move. But it is still quite hot, and I can only imagine she'll move a little bit later on. The youngsters might get up and have a little bit of a reshuffle if their bellies are full to adjust that. If the sun starts dipping down a little bit more, their shade might disappear, so they might have to get up and move again. But this breeze is very welcoming this afternoon. It was a really hot morning. And with a bit of a breeze that we've got going now, it's cooled it down significantly. Can see a little bit of a tail flick every so often from mom. She might have irritating flies that are pestering her in and around her face. Maybe she had a little bit of remnants from whatever it was that she caught on her face and on her fur that's attracting flies, those little biting flies that she's trying to get rid of. You might see an ear flick as well every so often. But amazing to see such young cheetah cubs. I mean, in long grass like this, they are lying in a bit of a bare patch. Long grass like this, if they are following mom, it's just a little bit of a hop, skip and a jump of a flash of white that you see. Can't really see them nice and clearly. Mom, on the other hand, different story because she's quite a bit taller. But the youngsters are quite tricky to see. So just to see those little faces, those very fluffy faces, is amazing. And to think of those scenes that we had to watch unfold with Busani the other day were really hard. But this now, a couple of days later, here we are sitting with the cheetah and her 3 youngsters. And the mother of this cheetah was also really, really successful. She and her sister both made it through to adulthood, and there were just 2 in the litter. And then the litter before that was 3 of them, and likewise with them, all 3 of them made it through to adulthood. So, you know, if she's got half of what her mom was, she will be a super mom.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Kalahari Tswalu with myself, Deirdre, and Darby is still with us on camera. I haven't managed to throw him off the vehicle as hard as I've tried with my driving like a terror, but we've just got this absolutely beautiful vista. So you're seeing all those clouds. Yesterday there was a dark sort of black sky. And it cleared overnight. This morning was quite clear, and we've got the cloud build-up again. We're 33 degrees Celsius and 91 Fahrenheit. It's progressively daily getting hotter and hotter, and the humidity is definitely increasing slightly. So we do anticipate within the next couple of days we should have another thunder shower. The Kalahari never complains when we're going to get some more rain. So even the gemsbok or oryx was still in the shade when we got here. It's that hot. He's just flicking off all the louse flies off his tail. They're quite lucky. They got a really, really nice hairy tail, so good for the sweeping motion. And then he's just taking in a little bit of fresh greens. Oh. Yes, pose for the camera. Nice, thank you very much. And again, did I see right? It looked like he had quite a tatty ear. So, maybe, but sometimes from fighting, you will have animals that don't necessarily have, or their ears have been torn in a fight. No. No, I don't see it. Just a really, really nice scene with them there. At least 4 in a group there, mostly females. And we're also waiting. We have seen some Gemsbok youngsters around, but there's still more due. And they'll be very similar to the springbuck in that they'll hide their youngsters, feed in the area, and then go and suckle their youngsters for a couple of weeks before the youngsters are old enough, and then sometimes even leaving them in like a little nursery group, a couple of youngsters together while the adults are feeding, and then when the calves are a bit more mobile, they'll actually start moving with the herd. But just look at all those clouds. It's like the promise of rain. All the farmers out in these areas just look at those rain clouds and they're just very, very hopeful. But the rain doesn't always land on everyone's farm all the time. We even have it here at Tswalu that the rain can be quite patchy. And it does tend to, I don't know if the mountains have a big effect on the rain, but we certainly do find the strip along the mountain range throughout the sort of middle and eastern side of the reserve does tend to get slightly more rain than out west in the dunes. Okay, we're going to send you across to Eric. He's got an update for the lions.
Not too much has happened apart from this young male in picture standing up and moving, and I think he couldn't help the temptation. There was a nice big herd of Impala that was moving through these open clearings, and all he did was stood up, and that movement alerted those Impalas, which, I mean, look how, I'll move my head, look how far away they are from this sighting that we're at the moment. So they're a good few hundred meters away, and look at that one is still fixated. It spotted the movement, identified it as a lion or a predator, and the whole herd for about 3 minutes was just alarm calling at them. Now the rest of the pride seems to have lost interest. But it goes to show, I mean, the wind is blowing from the Impala to the lions, so those Impalas were completely dependent on their eyesight, and all it took was one little bit of movement. The Impalas picked up the heads, looked, and now the whole, or all of the animals within this area realize now that there's a potential threat around. And so the only ones that are showing some sort of interest are the younger ones. The adult females picked up the heads briefly, assessed the opportunity, and realized that nothing too promising yet, and they've put their heads back down to rest up before they get active. But it's really cool to see some of them with their heads up. I was just saying to BK within the last month, it is quite incredible to see how much these lions have grown. And they, by now, I mean, they're almost as big as the adults, and they must have insanely big appetites. And so these females, these poor females, have got their work cut out for them. And so that's the one in picture, the one in the foreground, and you can just see the one directly behind with that very, very pink nose is one of the sub-adults, or the older cubs. So Wu Yang, you asking the largest pride of lions within the Kruger. I don't know if I can give you a specific pride, but there have been recordings of over 30 lions within the park, and I know there's several different prides. I mean, this pride being 18 together must be one of the larger prides that we find, especially within this area. I know within the Sabi Sands region, there are 1 or 2 prides that are reaching on the mid-20s with cubs. The numbers of these prides, especially when they've got cubs, fluctuates, especially when the cubs are young and they get killed or they die for some reason. So now that these ones are mature enough, I mean, it's pretty solid bet that they must be one of the larger prides within this area of the Kruger at least. And the exciting thing is, there's only 2 lionesses here. And so that the youngest lioness with her 2 youngest cubs is not here. And there must be a big fly that was annoying that big male, but we've got him up and he's stretching. And I wonder, look at him, he'll keep a firm eye on that sub-adult. So both of those males are now kind of watching that sub-adult to make sure nothing's happening. Nice father and son moment. Look, there must be an insect that's really irritating him because he got up. That big on the left, he's watching, and just look how majestic he looks, especially in the wind and how that mane is just blowing across his face. It really, really looks cool. So like I was saying, just before the question, there's 1 lioness that's missing, and then there's another 2 lionesses that aren't here. And it was around about this time that we saw one of the females, actually the mother of the older white male. She was mating somewhere around the 2nd of September. And if we look at the calculations, that was roughly 3.5 months ago, which is around about the time that lions give birth. And by the looks of things, I mean, we haven't been following them for the last week, but we have seen 2 lioness tracks that have gone over the river, and they are literally just within an area where they've given birth to cubs before. So you never know. Maybe within the next week or so we might be looking at new cubs. But whilst we sit and ponder whether they might have cubs or not, Andrew's got some elephants. Let's go see what they're up to.
Thanks so much, Eric. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve this afternoon. My name is Andrew. On camera, I have Johan. So we begin our daily drive this afternoon. Come in this position of the eastern side of Agari Dam, where we were hoping to find the pride of lions, but we come across a beautiful herd of elephants that I think they have drank, or they haven't yet, but looks like they're moving slightly east from their watering hole at the moment. And this is how we're going to be operating around here. The temperature for the day today is 25 degrees Fahrenheit and 77 or 25 degrees Celsius, 77 Fahrenheit. This is how we stand on our temperature for the day. Of course, such elephants, they need a lot of their own time moving around in and out of this area. It just actually recently rained, so it's quite a bit of for them, nutritious on grasses, also plants as well. Since they are all just a mixed feeder, this is how they will be spending time around in this wood. Remember, we're coming to you live, so you can join us by bringing the question on Kids Question at WildEarth.tv. Also, the adult, always hashtag WildEarth, also at FC, and WildEarth.tv/explorer. Those of you who haven't yet joined, or you can go in there, sign up, so in order for you to be able to participate on our live show in this area. So I'm going to move slightly forward, see if we can see more of these elephants. I know they actually kind of well spread around here. Well, there's another one coming out. Thought I lost all of the herd. But they would be actually leading exactly the direction of the matriarch, where she's leading them to. Remember, for them to be able to get around, form such a massive group, and they. So I'm going to be moving slightly forward, sending you to Matt, who has a cheetah for you.
Welcome back, everybody. We managed to have we've just changed our position slightly here, and we've got the most incredible view of those three youngsters who, also like Mom, I've managed to have a thorough scan now with the binoculars, have bellies that are bursting at the seams, which is very encouraging. Mom as well, you can see her with her mouth open, panting. The youngster right at the back is resting its head on its sibling as well. I'm not sure if you can see that, but it's got its eyes open and it's almost like Sunday lunch, after a big Sunday lunch, with bellies full to the brim and eyes slowly starting to close, in and out of consciousness, just trying to rest off those full bellies. And this will be probably the first or about a couple of times that they've tasted meat for the first time, these youngsters, which is really, really exciting and encouraging. Diego, you're asking how long the youngsters are with Mom. Typically around 18 months to 2 years, but probably closer to 2 years. And these youngsters are only 3 months old, so they've still got quite a while to go before they are independent. I mean, this is only the first couple of times that we've seen them, so we're not even sure of the genders of the youngsters. If there are 2 males and a female, the 2 males will stick together eventually when the day does come. If it's 3 females, they'll also stick together for the first couple of months, and then when they're old enough to raise litters of their own, they'll go off on their own and look for a mate, and like this, Mom have a set of youngsters on her own. So Diego, between about 18 months to 2 years, they'll still be with Mom. You saw how Mom was quite nervous. It is quite windy, so she's obviously got to listen out extra carefully for threats. And with her youngsters still being so small, there are quite a few of those. I've just heard someone say now that there's a lioness at a watering hole a little bit further away from us, and that particular watering hole is, as the crow flies, 400-500 meters away, so you can see she's also in and out of consciousness. Her head's up, and she'll constantly keep looking around for things like that lioness who could pose a threat to her youngsters. But magic to see those little faces, and compared to Mom, so fluffy, that will eventually fade into the spots that you see like Mom. They've got those really, really distinct teardrop marks on their faces, but such characters. Really, really cute. We are going to waddle across to Taylor and her duck. I think we'll probably leave these cheetah be for the afternoon and head out to another area and see what else we can find this afternoon.
Can you believe it? We're actually not at a dam this afternoon, but in fact a wallow. 2 matching wallows called twin pans, where we are watching a pair of knob-billed ducks. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me is Sebastian Romby, and we're here at Piedlands Conservancy, which is part of Tswalu Game Reserve and the Greater Kruger National Park. Now, like I said, normally you either see us at Leopard Dam or in Ndlovu Dam to start our drive off, but sadly no one was around. So we thought we'd visit another watering hole where there was a pleasant surprise of a pair of knob-billed ducks, which I haven't seen for a while. Actually, I lie. I have seen one fly over in Ndlovu Dam not too long ago. But we don't see them particularly often. Now, that's the male that you're looking at over there. He's quite easy to tell the difference because in breeding season, he's got this very inflated knob on the top of his bill, which you can see quite nicely there. They're just trying to hide out from the wind at the moment. And then the female, she's smaller in size. You see he's quite bloated and out at the moment. She's huddled down, keeping out of the wind, but she doesn't have that sort of knob on her bill, so you can tell them quite easily apart. But they were in the water not too long ago, and it looked like the male was performing a bit of a courtship. So I'm hoping that they do get back in and do that, because it's quite fascinating to see how he chases after the female, keeps his tail raised away from the water. It's quite spectacular. But one of the prettier duck species that we see in this area, I mean, you can see now as the light is hitting his feathers, and that beautiful iridescence is just coming off in the form of purples, as well as some nice sort of greens. He is a very, very pretty bird. And a few dragonflies, of course, as you will often find around the watering holes. But this is just a little pan. It's actually quite popular with the elephants and the buffalo. They love it here. And we've often tried to do a few segments, so I'm really happy that we're live in and around this area. But unfortunately, very overgrazed, as you can imagine. And you can see they're nice and full. So yesterday we had 55 mils of rain, which is quite spectacular. It means that Ndlovu Dam is topped up, so is Leopard Dam, and all of these mud wallows, which is going to bring about quite a bit of life. Right, I wonder if it is as windy in the Sabi Sands with Lauren as it is here at Pridelands.
Well, Taylor, talking of wind, I'd rather it wasn't windy today. We have the most incredible sighting in front of our eyes. All the whitebacks waiting. Do you want to know what they're waiting for? Simon is about to show you right in front of us. Oh, I should be wearing my mask right now. We have Darkmane guarding his hippo carcass. Now, I'm normally quite good with words, but the smell coming off this carcass, the vehicle next to us has actually just moved back. I've just reversed backwards. Now, many of you will be asking, I actually don't know what happened to this hippo. It looks like a youngster. Not a juvenile, but a sort of youngster sub-adult, I think. And I really don't know what's happened. I don't know the story. I don't also understand why the Talamati Pride are sitting on Djuma, and Darkmane, the most handsome boy, is sitting up here always lonesome, guarding the hippo. And I'm sure you can hear the wind, and it's wafting that delicious aroma right into our nostrils. How you doing there, Simon? You enjoying the smell? He's giving me the thumbs up, but I don't think he means it. But I haven't seen a scenario like this in such a long time. So we've got a hooded vulture on either side. See, there we go. You can go to the one just behind Darkmane. That's a hooded. Now, they're a smaller species of vulture, and normally the sort of bravest. You will find that they will get quite close to said predator, and they'll always chance their luck. They'll wait until the predator in question is not looking, run in, grab some snacks, and run back out again. So we've got two hooded on the ground, and just up here, Simon, way in the distance, we've got a tree, a dead tree, I think, covered in vultures. I am imagining whitebacks just from the shade, but I can't see too well. Or it could be a mixture, and you can see they're all just lying in wait, or sitting in wait, sorry. I have really not seen a scenario like this here in a very, very long time. I am sure hyenas will arrive soon. How can they not? How can they not smell this? Darkmane, are you really going to eat all of this hippopotamus to yourself? I hope not. You might explode. Cameron, for me, absolutely not. I will not be eating the hippo, not just because I try my best to be vegan or vegetarian, but because it smells awful and I have no desire to, but I know you're not asking about me, you're asking about the predators. And yes, predators will eat the most rotting, decaying flesh that you can ever imagine. They have a really, really strong stomach acid, so it means it's really low on the pH scale, which means it's extremely acidic. Acid is low, alkaline is high, and it will literally blast anything that comes in terms of pathogens and bacteria, and it won't allow it to pass through the gut and then enter into the bloodstream. So hyenas have got the strongest of all stomach acids, believe it or not, but most predators are well equipped for dealing with decaying carcasses, such like what we have in front of us. So yes, for them it is safe to eat, and that's why the youngsters, be it cubs or pups, they're introduced to meat quite early on. Like normally it is fresh meat, but the reason they're introduced is to get those tummies ready, to get those digestive enzymes ready, to get the immune system prepared for eating carcasses just like this. Look at it, frozen in time. Dark mane is not going to move. I have a funny feeling he is going to be here for a very long time. He's practically sleeping right next to the hippo. So the hydrochloric acid in any stomach is actually the main stomach acid, and it will destroy anything. And anything that would cause a sort of imbalance in the gut flora or the gut microbiome, the hydrochloric acid will blast it away, and that's exactly how the predators can survive. So we're going to sit here a little bit longer because I really haven't seen a scenario like this in a while, and we're going to send you guys across to Andrew.
Great idea to stick around where there is a lions. Hopefully they get up to do something. I decided to follow a little bit on this herd of elephants, but they keep on and on moving further away from us, and they seem to be all scattered all over around us. I think this is all about now feeding, finding a lot comfortable of themselves. When they all spread around, but they're still within the same group, that it works a lot better for them. They need a lot of amount of food for each, and they can't be all together in the same place. It's actually quite a lot of the bushes, but you can see a few of them, or another one right close to that. I think that's the other one that was going. I've seen a lot of females in this group, and this is what forms a nestling herds, where the males, they come independently, but also form group, comes as a bachelor group of up to 4, anything from 8, possibly 12 bull together, all different age, unite out there. Sorry, can you repeat the Andre's question again? I know the favorite, but I couldn't get the rest. Andre, good afternoon. So, you want to know my favorite part of the elephants? Well, herds of elephants for me, it's my favorite, where you're able to, witness a lot of movement and interactive they're doing amongst the group, where the young one have a lot of time to play, a lot of energy, can mark charge to one another, but at the same time, the adults would be stationary sometimes, depend on the herd. Some herd, they don't really want a young one move around in and out of their position so much, is they don't trust the protective animal. But yeah, the herds of elephants, they're pretty much my favorite. They're just like a mongoose, dwarf mongoose. When you look at these animals, they always do something. Monkeys, same thing as baboon as well. They're not actually bad animals to spend time with them and just to see how they interact. Even though they don't feed, sometimes they will be able to do something else differently. Yeah, with the elephant carrying so much of a weight around body, and during the heart of the day, all you see them near the water as a group, possible of seeing them swim in that heat of the day. So I'm going to be leaving this herd of elephants, sending you over to Eric, these lines.
It's rather because the only line within this whole pride that's showing any sign ones that tend to messing around and I mean, or at least lying around and not doing too much at all. And I think the way that he just keeps looking over at that younger male to the right of us, he is just watching and making sure he's not getting any closer. So that's probably motivating him just to keep a close guard on the rest of the pride. The others, I mean, they moved slightly away from where they were, and they moved possibly no more than 5 meters, and they've all lain down again. So I think it's going to be a while still until they decide to get up and move. And see, this male, the way that he's facing is straight into the wind, so he's not only watching that young male, I'm sure he'll be just smelling, listening out for any other opportunity. Look at that big yawn. You see, he at the bottom right canine has got a little chip at the tip, and there he goes down for his sleep. Let's quickly go over to Lauren.
Now Darkmane is fully settled here, but the vultures are not. The hooded vultures keep coming in. Oh, sorry. Wind, it would be very delightful if you could stop blowing, please. But I did also want to point something else out. We have 2 gorgeous yellow-billed storks just on the sort of other side of the dam. Completely unaware, I would imagine, of the scenario that's happening around them. Or maybe they are aware, and I guess it just doesn't bother them. They're surrounded by vultures, the apex predator. I'm sure there must be a hyena around here somewhere. We don't get to see yellow-billed storks too often, and I don't know how visible it is at your end, but the individual on the right is tinged very, very pink, almost flamingo-esque. And this normally happens during breeding season. So they normally get a little bit pinker, if you like, when it's time to mate. And the sort of facial skin is normally naked, there's no feathers, that becomes bright red. So I think this is a monogamous pair. The sexes are very alike, males and females, so it's very difficult to tell the difference, but I imagine we have a male and female here. They look like they've got a giant ice cream cone stuck to their face. And they are water birds. You will find them feeding on aquatic sort of insects, to fish, to frogs, worms, crustaceans, anything that you find around the water hole. And a little bit on a sadder note, in the dam, it's popped underwater right now, but I imagine it will resurface. We actually do have some hippos. And I guess it's coming from a very human perspective, but it's rather sad that there's one of their own dead on the embankment here. But they've been playing around, also quite unaware of the drama that's unfolding around them. I've tried to do a vulture count and I just can't. They're on every single tree around the dam. They're on the embankment. They're behind Darkmane. They're in front of Darkmane. There are just so many vultures. Sam, I don't think so. As far as I know, the yellow-billed storks have never been seen feeding on carcasses or carrion. They are carnivores. They do eat other animals, be it insects, be it frogs, tadpoles, worms. That's other animals, so they're classified as carnivores. But I've never known them to feed on carcasses or carrion. I don't necessarily think they would be attracted to the scent. I don't know how any animal can be, but I don't believe they do. Having a very good groom here. Or preen. Preen is the correct word for birds, not groom. Apologies. But there's absolutely no way that this smell will not attract others, especially with the wind. Other predators are going to pick up on this scent. They must. And there's a lot of meat, from what I can see, left on this poor hippo. I don't believe it's completely fresh. I think it's a day or two old. Darkmane's been here. I just wonder why the Talamatis are not. You rarely find Darkmane without his pride of ladies. But I think right now he's quite happy. In fact, I know he's happy. Look at that very attractive angle. Oh, Darkmane. We may try to reposition a little bit, avoid the hippo and try to get a place. But for now, we're going to send you to Tswalu to see some birds with Deirdre.
So, welcome back to Tswalu. As we were driving past, we just heard this little cheep, cheep, cheep. So I stopped and I said to Davi, there's a chick in that tree somewhere. I don't know what bird it is. We've just got the chick here. When it turns sideways, hopefully it turns sideways, it's actually begging for food. The only two birds, we saw two species of birds fly out from this direction. One of them was a wattled starling, and the other one that flew out was a crimson-breasted shrike. So, I can't tell you who's the parents, but a very, very cute chick indeed. But he is, other than cheeping probably for getting some food, he is also excessively hot. He's just holding his beak open and he's panting quite heavily. Birds, sometimes you'll see that sort of, they have a gular flutter. Their throat will actually flutter left and right. Or left and right, listen to me. Flutter sort of in and out to help them lose heat. But he just got to, oh, he's gone back to sleep. He's just closed his eyes. So I don't, Mum, oh wait there, Mummy's on the top. Mummy's just come food. So we just watch. Oh, it's a chat flycatcher, a Mariko flycatcher, and she's got food in her mouth. It looks like she's got, I want to say, a praying mantis of some kind. That makes sense. But then, wow, that's a very big chick. The chick is still there. I think, sure. I think if we just stand still, we're closer to the chick at this stage, and the mom flew in just above, and she's got food in her mouth. So she'll generally see if we're a threat or not, because she doesn't want to give the position of the chick away. In case we're a predator, she'll rather see up until she trusts us, and then hopefully comes in, similar to what that starling did this morning. So it is just the season of plenty. A lot of birds are either sitting on eggs now, already feeding chicks. Some chicks have already fledged, and that's just because it's the right time. There's lots and lots of insects available. I think we're just going to grab another look at that chick, and then I think we should actually move on, because we're preventing her from getting to the chick. She seems hesitant to bring the chick food because we're actually a little bit too close. She's got to fly in and over us in order to feed her chick, but she doesn't want to give its position away. So how beautiful is that? You can see we were talking about what we call the palatial spots on the gape, that yellow area. When the bird opens his mouth, it's basically a sign that just says, deposit food here. We're going to send you across to Taylor, who's got something interesting to show you.
wind is not keeping the animals at bay, which it often does. However, they're a little bit on the jumpy side, but we've come across a herd of buffalo that were just resting. Oh, is that tungsten? Yes, Seb, that buffalo that's behind all the sickle bush. That one, yeah. If you go to the right a bit, then you'll see his head. So there's a buffalo there that we haven't seen for quite some time. Now, I know it's quite an abstract view that we've got at the moment because he is standing behind some sickle bush, but it is our old buffalo friend, Tungsten. And I know that sounds quite ridiculous. He's just moving off to the right now. Maybe we'll get a view. There we go. So he's an older buffalo bull. He's missing half his tail, and he's also got his tongue sticking out of his mouth, which is quite something. I haven't seen him for a while, so I'm happy to hear that nothing has got him. But the rest of the herd are just moving through there. And this isn't one of the only the big 5 members that we've got. We have also, I'm just going to duck down so you can see over there, a huge herd of elephants. I don't think it's just one herd of elephants. I think there's about 2 herds here. We're just at the tail end of them now. And this is possibly my favorite wallowing spot. So obviously after the rain, I thought, we better come back here and check it out, because this area is quite popular with the animals. Every time, in fact, we've come to this little wallow, this secret spot, there's always been either elephants or buffalo, and I'm sure it'll be a perfect drinking spot for things like leopards and lions too. But there the ellies are, just behind all those bushes. See them, some little ones. There's quite a few big bulls. I'm not sure which herd it is just yet. Like I said, I think there's at least 2 herds in here. I'm hoping that one of the herds is going to be Susan's herd, but we will try and sneak around and get up ahead of them, and then I think we'll actually have a view of both the elephants and the buffalo interacting with one another. But I'm happy that they're not too bothered by us. Buffalo not happy, as they typically are, but the elephants are very relaxed. Rovalent. Now, elephants are enormous. I mean, they're the largest land mammal, not quite as big as the blue whales that prefer the seas, can only survive in the seas. But a really big elephant bull, on average, will weigh anywhere between 5 and 6 tons. So they're enormous creatures. These cows, so the females will probably weigh, there we go, he's not quite an enormous bull just yet, but a medium-sized bull. But the females will weigh around 4 to 4.5 tons or so. And even when a little elephant is born, it can weigh close to 100 kilograms. So, yeah, rather large creatures, hey? You can see he's just resting his tusks on one of the youngsters. That's what normally gets them into trouble. Don't be too boisterous. And he looks like he's a different color to the rest of the elephants just because he's tossed some oxidized soil, so soils that are rich with iron, over his body, whereas the other elephants, they look like a bit darker. I think they might have just sprayed some muddy sort of clay water that's in these wallows just all over them. But they are disappearing. We will try and get ahead of them. We've just got to do some navigating around here. There is a fair bit of black cotton soil, so we want to make sure we stick to the roads, which have actually got a fair amount of sand in them, which is perfect for us so that we won't get stuck. Right, I didn't quite hear where I'm going to send you next, but off you go, and I'm sure you'll have a lot of fun.
Great. Since we're really desperately looking to see these pride of lion again, just to see how they do. I believe they've been seen this morning, but nobody discovered what they were doing this afternoon or the whole entire day. And it looks like they're still in the same position, hasn't done so much of movement. And as you can see, they're right on the road. All we got is a road blocked. Probably finding it a lot comfortable just to lie on the road where it's quite open, where the temperature of these mix of a cloud and open sky and the temperature low for them, it's really cool. A lot of time for cats, possible of chance that you even see them pushing too much to hunt in this kind of a condition. Yeah, the water's not far away. We're just out inside of a Gari Dam at the moment, so anytime they're thirsty, or they're just going to go drink, they're probably going to do that. I don't think soon, maybe later when there's dark take places. They probably had something small they ate in it. Some of their stomach is a little bit of expand. Probably whatever it was done, and I don't think it was a big thing there. Morgan, good afternoon. You want to know how old are these lines? So here, capacity of these lines. Now this morning we're seeing 14 of them. Now we can count at least 12. Probably more of them there. We've got a lot of grasses. We can't see more of them. But a capacity of 5 adult females, which these are all fully grown. Oh, look at these females. She probably had a cut and looks fresh, probably maybe a few days ago. That cut, I can't tell what make that. So all of their young one, some of the 2 young males that I've seen here, one of them already have a well-developed mane on a cheek. Or then only time they kind of the mane develop like this is when they're 2.5 years old. So that female that she's moving around at the moment, she's also one of these full-grown bride in this bride, or lioness in this bride. Or Termite bride, they're actually long existence bride in this area. And he's older one. Estimated lifespan for them at the moment could be anything from the 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, all differently. But it's great that we seen made it through all these old years around in this area where there's a lot of challenge happened. When the challenge we're talking about, this is when they don't have physically dominant male that can stay longer with them, able to breed. What we've seen here happened with this Avoca male. They have actually done incredible job, great job. All of these young ones that you see there, they are offspring, so it's quite cool they're still around and they're still taking care of this bride. So yeah, they're still taking care of this bride. And then again, when it comes to this stage, you'll probably sooner see kind of a lot of a challenge for these males to be able to check on this female status and reproduce again. And the gestation period, 110, 115 days for such a cat to deliver the baby. In such a group like this, it's a well-sustainable group that they will able to get around anything they hunt. They cooperate, target on them, probably different target if depending on how many animals they hunt. I've seen a lot of wildebeest in this area, a blue wildebeest, less of a buffalo, I might say, but they come in and out sometimes. So when they're hunting so much of a big group of prey species, it's possible that if they hunt impala in this group, if they succeed in hunting, probably had a 2 impala kill at a time, or maybe 1. But that's how they cooperate, work together, surround the game. They communicate during the hunt, as long as they can see one another, even though they're spread up around. They can look one another and then they're able to see what the rest are doing. there is no sound communication from there. There's a sight communication when they're far that part. So I'm going to take another moment. I'm going to be linking you over a match with his sleeping lion.
Welcome back, everybody, to andBeyond Phinda. We're with one set of sleeping lions. We are with another. This is our mom and her 3 sub-adults, male, not so much cubs anymore, but all like those cheetah we saw earlier, trying to tuck themselves away in what little shade there is on the banks of this dried up watering hole. There is a little patch of water further back behind them, which we've just watched, heard a buffalo walk away from, and just waiting to see if anything changes here. But it is still really hot here, and we're just waiting to see if they move when it gets a little bit cooler, or if anything else comes to join them at the watering hole. I know the guys have had quite a bit of luck here at this particular spot with elephants. This is where Djuma saw those 2 big male lions come and drink the other day. So we're really hoping that something comes to either disturb this catnap that you see going on here, or change these very docile sleeping lions at the moment. Actually quite tricky to see which is which with the way they are lying at the moment. Almost looks like mom at the bottom there. Have a quick look with the binoculars. Yeah, mom lying right down at the bottom on the left. And then the 3 youngsters, the 1 second up from mom, looks like it must be super uncomfortable. Rush of blood to the head the way it's lying. And the rest... Oh, have a look at this. There are 3 elephant bulls making their way, and I think they're going to come straight to the water, just off to the left, back in the distance. I'm not sure if we can see that, just like we spoke about now, coming to drink. They've probably been in the woodlands where it's a little bit more sheltered, and they're going to make their way to that watering hole. Mary, you're asking how much a lion can eat into a day. Fully grown male lion can eat at around about 25 kilograms in a sitting. But I was actually chatting to Damon about this the other day, or he was on this morning, and he read that it was a domestic lion that ate just over 50 kilograms of food in a sitting, and one can only imagine their bellies are bursting at the seams with 25, but this particular chap after 50 must have been massive. But yeah, what I know is the 25 kilograms. I've never personally asked a male lion how much they eat in a sitting, but I'm going to creep around to where those elephants are coming to. I think they're going to have a bit of a drink, maybe throw some water on their heads at that watering hole. You might be able to see the buffalo as we pass through this area now as well. And absolutely spoiled for choice. We haven't received the rains that we were expecting just yet. So everything still congregates around the watering holes that we've got, or that still have a little bit of water in them. These lions, the lions we've left behind us fast asleep. The elephants, on the other hand, are still slowly but surely making their way down, or should I say rather up towards where we are. So let's see what happens here. The buffalo, there are a couple of woolly-necked storks floating around this watering hole. There's actually a number of woolly-necked storks floating around here. And the elephants are slowly but surely, but moving at quite a pace, walking towards this watering hole. So I'm actually quite excited for that. I think that's when you see happy elephants, when they are now almost strung out in a long line. But have a look at how many woolly-necked storks there are here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Count 9 of them. I don't think I've ever seen that many together. A couple of them grooming themselves. You might be able to see the buffalo that we are talking now in the distance as these woolly-necked storks pass by in the foreground. The elephants. Elephants, now that I say are slowly but surely making their way here, have paused briefly. Maybe they found something sweet at the bottom there that once held water, a little bit more nutritious than the rest of the grasses and the likes that are around here for them to choose from. One at the back slowly bringing up the rear, but everything, a couple of blue wax balls here at the water also coming down for a drink. And this is one of the spots where we filmed orange-breasted wax balls before, which are also same family as the blue wax balls. Really, really pretty little birds. Temba, you're asking how fast an elephant can run. I'm not sure if you can see these three walking at a bit of a pace, but when they, well, at least a family of them with matriarchs and calves and the likes, you will see them bobbing their heads up and down and moving at a serious pace, roughly around 40 kilometers an hour. And for an animal that can weigh up to around 6 tons, that is a phenomenal pace. It's just pure mass, muscle mass that you see bobbing its head. But yeah, around 40 kilometers per hour. They've all slowed down now, but I'm sure eventually they will end up at this watering hole and put on a bit of a show for us. It's still a really hot afternoon. They probably would have had a drink this morning sometime and then ventured off into the woodlands where they would have picked and eaten, browsed from trees and the likes and there. And now they've slowed down a little bit from when we first saw them. But yeah, like I said, they've probably found something nice to eat where they are at the moment. I might just creep. I'm not sure how your view is there. Owen, if you're right, stay here for now. But they don't look like they're in any hurry for the time being. We are going to stick around with these elephants for now. We'll send you off to Andrew with his sleeping lions and see if they get up and start to move. Maybe it's a little bit cooler where Andrew is. But yeah, I'm going to see if these elephants don't come and join us at the watering hole this afternoon. We might see a little bit later.
Beautiful. So we now change the position, having a better look of this bride. But, they are, some of them are just sleeping upside. This is actually how, whatever they've probably eaten in it, lions are capable of doing that. Even though they're hungry, sometimes they can do that. Position of their legs up, so they're able to digest very smoothly. But this one, I don't think they were able to do their movement or make any of their movement right now. And there is no disturbance here. No hyena that I can see. Usually they don't get along. They would chase hyena off side. So now we count all 12 of them here. It's probably more around. Oh, it's only those. So they trust this area. Since they're all in a group here, they just take a nap, close their eyes permanently. And they give birth to about 1 to about 3, 4 youngest. And that females always hide their cubs away when they're very new. So they are very safe and they're covered in one of these curved rock or thicket. Spend time there when they're newborn. They kind of like don't see well when they're born until they're a couple of weeks later on. They can able to see again. So I'm going to take another moment here, see what these lions do. Finally, I'm going to take you over to another live session.
Welcome back to Tswalu, and they're just sneaking out of our picture. There is a female ostrich. She was a lot closer to the vehicle earlier, but she's decided to use those 2 long legs to take the gap, so she ran there quite quickly. The other day I was busy doing an ostrich track, and then I went back and I was watching the footage, and while I was busy talking about the 2 toes of an ostrich and the 3 toes of an emu, FC said to me, do the link, and I landed up saying that an ostrich has 3 toes. So I just want to correct that. An ostrich has 2 toes and 1 claw, and an emu from Australia has 3 toes. But we've also got a nice group of little gemsbok there, and you can actually see there's 5 youngsters, like we were talking about a nursery, but they all have horns. So 4 of them are around about the same age, and then the one on the right of the 5 is a little bit older. But they're about a year old now. They would have been last year's calves, because you can see that they already got reasonably sized horns, and they'll still sort of stick together in their little group. And if a gemsbok group gets too large, then they'll split off into their smaller groups. So not mature at all. A nice big female on the left hand side. So at this distance, a female, because long, thin, very sharp horns, and quite close together. So the males a little bit further apart in the distance there. Oh, there's one of the youngsters is grooming. Oh, there's the other one grooming. So they're out in the heat on the base of the dune. They're quite far away from us, which is why they're so relaxed. But yeah, we can't wait for the new baby gemsbok to appear. Sometimes even I just saw that one scratching its nose with its hoof. Sometimes if they have an itchy backside, they just use the tip of the horn to scratch their itchy backside. Oh, there we go. Oh, itching. That's probably the louse flies that are getting to them. They are horrible little things. Or the sand tampan, which is a type of a tick. That's what they'll try be getting rid of. So a lot of desert animals have much larger ears relative to sort of the size of their head. Gemsbok is a little bit more in proportion, but if later we're fortunate enough to show you a roan, they've got these ridiculously long, sort of linear-shaped ears. Oh, there we go, scratching his butt with his horn. There we go. With her, sorry, it was the lady. Other animals will do it in a different way. They'll go and find a tree to rub up against, and they'll just relieve their itch that way. But it's kind of like those little hand back scratchers that you can buy, just to sort of scratch your own back. The porcupine, listen to me. The gemsbok is carrying a pair of their own, of those little back scratchers. It's quite distinct. You can see all the sort of black and white coloration, so nice. At a long distance in the arid environments, if you pick up a mirage, if there's an area where you get that like heat wave and you've actually got the gemsbok standing in the heat wave, they almost disappear completely with that coloration. They're standing out clearly now because we've got a nice green background, but on days where you've got that mirage at a distance, they just disappear. So Igor, if I got your name right, your question is, are gemsbok territorial? And they're not, and the reason why they're not is because they tend to prefer to be nomadic, in that they're always consistently looking to move to different areas for food. So they don't have a territory, they just move nomadically for finding food. And then the bulls will try and find the cows to breed with. Nice. What a nice picture. So it just shows you how much longer they have to grow, because those are only a year old, and then you see the size of the adult in comparison. They're only going to mature when they're probably 3 or 4 years old. So they've still got quite a bit of growing to do. And they're vulnerable. They're in the cheetah, wild dog, lion size category. Well, everything's kind of in the lion size category. Oh, quickly go over to Taylor. She's got something amazing to show you.
We do indeed have something amazing. We're actually looking at an old friend. Another elephant that we haven't seen for quite some time, but made an appearance many, many months ago. Now, if you look really carefully, you'll see that this elephant has got light-colored eyes. And around his mouth and behind his ears and even some parts of his legs have actually got a bit of pigmentation. Now, this is a leucistic elephant, although he's got very small amounts of leucism present, but you can see it, especially towards the tips of his ears, how light they are in color. How cool is that? So if you've obviously been watching WildEarth for quite some time, you would have seen at Ngala, they have the Birmingham Pride of Lions, and they've got 2 lions in there that are leucistic. So this elephant has the same recessive gene, which causes the sort of paleness in his eyes, and then some pigmentation around his mouth, which is quite cool. But you'll also see that his eyelashes are blonde in color, and so is the hair on his tail. But right now he is very excited. There we go, you can see the blonde hair on his tail, because he is playing about with another young elephant. So this herd of elephants, I actually don't think it is 2 herds of elephants. Now I think it is just one, because when we saw them last, there's quite a few of them. There must be about 40 individuals just in this herd alone, and then with all the bulls that are around them, I would say that we've at least got 50 elephants here, maybe even a few more, but it's really awesome. And the buffalo, they've been chased off, unfortunately, by the younger... there's that. So it's a scrub hare. Oh, I got excited. So there's a scrub hare that just ran out, but what had happened earlier is that an African wildcat came out onto the road and stopped very briefly. I'm assuming also chased out by the elephants and buffalo. There's quite a few animals moving through here. And it stopped and it looked very, very briefly at the car and then turned and ran it away. We weren't able to find it again, so I was hoping that maybe that was the second one, but it wasn't. It was just the scrub hare. Whew. All the excitement this afternoon. But I'm really happy to see this young Ellie bull. It's quite nice to see. Now, in order for an animal to have the Leucistic gene. Both the male and the female elephant have to carry that recessive gene to cause it. So then it's not an albino elephant. He still looks very much like a normal elephant. There's just some parts of him that are lighter in color. So it's a lack of melanin, in case you were wondering. But it's so dramatic and it's beautiful. It's one thing on a lion, but it's just something quite cool on an elephant. Quite nice if you can capture an image like that. But off they go behind the bushes. We've actually been really lucky. This section of Pridelands is actually quite popular with all the animals. There's great grazing. You can also see how sort of semi-open areas in there come a few of the buffalo now that most of the elephants have moved off. Right, but from these elephants and buffalo, off you go across to some more Ellies that are having a drink.
Welcome back, everybody, where these three gentle giants have eventually made their way to this watering hole. They literally haven't stopped drinking since they got here. The one who brought up the rear, he's just got his one right tusk. Was a bit of a bully. That one who's facing us had his back to us, but this chap here with just a single tusk on the right-hand side is probably got the largest tusk of all of them. Bullied them out the way. Might be a little bit older than the others. I was trying to see there where that left-hand tusk of his would have come out, where there's anything left in there, but I can't seem to see anything. But yeah, that could have broken off in a fight or the likes. Often you might see elephants, if that has happened, where a tusk is broken off and it's still quite sensitive, they'll try and, with their tusk, or their trunk rather, feel around there with that to try and ease the pain if they've got a bit of a toothache. But the first thing they didn't even throw water on themselves on this hot afternoon. They just drank the lot of them. And liters and liters and liters upon water. Watch the one in the middle. As he drinks, he puts on a bit of a show, like a bit of a sprinkler, up and into its mouth. Actually quite amusing to watch. And I can only imagine once they've had their full here, they will head off probably back further down where we came from in the direction of those lions, which will be quite exciting for us. The wind is blowing from behind us, so sort of in the direction of where the lions are towards them. But if you're asking if elephants are hunted by any other animal, the only recorded cases I know of animals hunting elephants are in Botswana, where they've got those really big prides of lions who have adapted and become really successful elephant hunters, and they won't choose something as large as these elephant bulls, but maybe one that's quite a bit younger. They'll take down, and that you can imagine has quite a bit of food for a pride. But in that case, they're really up against it, because elephant bulls, matriarchs, and every other elephant in the herd will try their best to defend themselves and each other against things like lions. So it might only be an elephant bull that's on its own, just recently being kicked out of a pride, that those prides that have adapted to hunting them will look to take down and hunt. But besides them, most certainly not here in Phinda, nothing ever tries their luck with elephants. It's always the opposite way around, where elephants will flush things like lions, leopards, cheetah, you name it. They'll chase everything out and about. Just because they are as big as they are and as powerful as they are, they know they're the boss at the end of the day. That's why we give them the space that they need to walk around. We are in fact parked where they all crossed the road to get to the watering hole. So the two had already crossed, but the third took its time. We had to go a little bit further back. But just talking about paths and being on the move, we're going to head off to Lauren, who's got a hyena.
Now we have a hyena. I think it's a male. Look at his back. Look at his back. This is a male that we have seen before. Sadly, he's got up. He's got very few spots on his right side, big blotches. And the reason we're here, we're nowhere near Dark Main, just to give you all some context. I'm going to move. Simon, let's follow. And the reason we're here, a leopard was found, and it was called in a skittish male. I don't know who. I don't imagine Tingana or even Quarantine or even Klangula would be called in as skittish. Djuma maybe. Haven't heard anything about Djuma in a while. So we came, and unfortunately we did not find the leopard, but we found that hyena, who I believe is following the leopard. And at the sort of lobe part of the ear that would adjoin the head, it's flappy. So it's been torn. And this hyena is really, really not in a good way. Big injury to his back. And we've seen that one before. Don't believe he's part of the Djuma clan, but with males it's very, very tricky to say. The hyena's there. That's okay, Simon, don't worry, we're not going to get a view. I'm going to cross this drainage, and I'm going to try and see if we can pick up this leopard. Who would be called in as a skittish male? I really, really don't know. So we'll do a loop. We'll go check on Dark Main once again, and then go all the way back down into Djuma to the hyena den. I would love to see who this leopard is. Nobody knows, I'm afraid, but once they go into the drainage in summer, it's too tricky. I don't know how our signal is going to fare here, but I'm going to keep moving, and hopefully we'll manage to find this male leopard and see exactly who it is. But for now, we're going to send you back across to Taylor and her elephants.
Good luck on that search, Lauren. We have found the teeniest, tiniest little elephant we've seen for a very long time. Look at it, very busy underneath Mom's front legs. Except we've got another elephant trying to steal the show. Look at this. Younger, not younger, an older elephant. Yeah. Oh goodness, it's Susan 2.0. What's your problem? You see a fairly youngster, not very happy with us, throwing a bit of a tantrum right next to the car. Are you also protective? Yes, you're very cute. Not quite as cute as the tiny elephant, but you're a lot more entertaining. There we go. You had your 5 minutes of fame. Now right back to this other little thing. Now, look, it goes right underneath Mom's belly. I mean, that trunk is still so short. Look at it. Shame. It's absolutely adorable. That can't be very old. That must only be 2 weeks old, if that. It's so small. Tiny little feet still. Like I said, the trunk is very, very short. Thank goodness an elephant's trunk is much smaller in size when it is born. Otherwise, it definitely a trip over it. See, not leaving Mom's side either. So that's also another indication that it's young. And again, an elephant that's probably between 5 and 8 years old. Quite curious, the card just letting us know that it's boss and we mustn't mess with its little sister. Yes, you're very big and brave too. Now we've got a question from Callum, who's just 12 years old, about how far can an elephant move in a day? Well, Callum, it's actually quite interesting. This will depend on where the elephants live. So, for example, the elephants that live here in the greater Kruger area, they don't really need to move that far all the time. Maybe if the elephants are living up in the northern sections of Kruger, they might have to travel a bit further, just because there's certain vegetation types, certain types of trees and plants that aren't as tasty, like there's lots of mapani and stuff up there, but there's other nicer plants that they'd prefer to eat at this time of the year. So I think on average, an elephant in this area wouldn't need to do more than 15 to 20 kilometers in a day, and I even think that that's I'm being a bit generous. But if you go to somewhere like Namibia, I always use Namibia as an example, where their food is few and far between, and so are some of the watering holes, those elephants need to travel up to 50 kilometers in one day. So that's a very, very far distance. But it'd also be quite difficult for a little elephant like that to travel that far. So that's going to depend and probably have something to do with how far they'll be able to move. So yeah, it kind of just depends. But these guys don't have to go very far at all. There's lots of water around for them, as we've seen, and then you can see, look how lush the grasses and all the leaves are on the trees. So there's no need. Yes, that's obviously a shake of the head, disapproval of probably what I've just said. Would you like to say something different, elephant? Am I talking absolute nonsense? Perhaps, we'll never know. No, little one, yes, I know you're just showing us how big and strong you are, but you can see still quite wary of the car, not really wanting to get right close. So that's cool. I can maybe lean over and say hello. Hi. Alright. Sometimes I also want my 5 minutes of fame too. I'm stroking. Oh, sweet, look at the little one. That's much cuter than I am. Hello. No, that's not where you suckle from, I'm afraid, little elephant. You're slightly confused. You're going to go to the front end. Mom's mammary glands are between her front legs, not her back legs, like most mammal species, actually. There aren't too many mammal species other than primates, elephants, hyraxes. They typically have their mammary glands between their front legs, and then the rest of them are behind and between the back legs. But look at it, going right underneath Mom's belly. So that's not going to be eating very much at all. I'm sure it's going to be trying to put bits and bobs in its mouth, but really not eating too much other than Mom's milk. I can see the two of you are visibly upset with the car. I mean, you're being very dramatic. It's really not necessary, but thank you very much for entertaining all of us this afternoon. You're the real star of the show, aren't you? They're quite sweet when they're in this age, and it's important, again, not to give them too much of a reaction. We don't want them to learn any bad habits, and a young elephant like this is really not going to come overcharging towards the car to try and hurt us. We're still just sort of testing the boundaries of what can I do to get a reaction from the people in the car. I think that we're just going to spend most of the afternoon following this breeding herd and getting to know this little one a little bit better, but off you go across to the elephants that are still quenching their thirst.
Welcome back, everybody. From breeding herds to elephant bulls. These three have remained unchanged for the most part. That's the first sort of little bit of interaction we've seen from them, with this one with his backside towards us, just reaching out to the one on the left-hand side. But now it's actually quite nice to see the very large, intricate network of veins behind their ears, as that one with only one tusk faces away from us. If he flaps his ears, they've got massive veins behind their ears. That on a hot day like today, as they're busy feeding, they'd sit them or stand flapping them to try and regulate their body temperature. And yeah, they can pump around 12 litres of blood through there every minute. So that's one of the ways in which they'll keep themselves cool. If it's not throwing water over themselves or mud over themselves on really, really hot days, as it can get here in Zululand, they'll stand and flap those ears of theirs. You can see they've all got them out. They've slowed down with their drinking now somewhat as well. And we spoke about them sort of establishing dominance earlier on, and the two on the right seem to be having a very serious conversation. They've just, I wouldn't say squared off, but are face to face with one another. and the bully that came in, who still has his back towards us, hasn't budged. So I'd be interested to see if they do anything here. Lifting its trunk, smelling the one here behind us. You can just see the trunk above its ear. And like I said, the wind is blowing from those lions towards them. So maybe he's now picked up the scent of those lions, which would be super exciting to see, because they definitely won't tolerate those lions being in the same vicinity as them, and will more than likely chase them away. Also, I've just seen now a couple of orange-breasted waxbills at the edge of this watering hole, which are a super rare bird to see. If you look right on the edge, you might be able to see them bright orange bills having a bit of a bath there. The 4 of them, which is amazing. Nice one for the bird list for those of you at home who are making a bit of a bird list. Those orange-breasted waxbills, really pretty birds to see. You can see them all there having a bit of a bath at the moment. When you're asking when elephants mate, that's something that I've only ever seen once or twice, but like these 3 elephant bulls, when they get kicked out of the herd at between around 10, 15 years old, will then go and trail herds of elephants with females, etc. And only when one of those females is in estrus, and you'll often see them go up to dung and smell the dung, process that information, see if that female's in estrus, and then they'll actually push them away from the herd, outside of the herd, mate with them, and then the female will join back up with the herd, and then the male will go his own way. And like these 3 then be together in what they call a bachelor herd of males, or just males that will then follow. There's a herd of, quite interestingly enough, here on Phinda, we had a small amount of elephants that were brought in from Zimbabwe, and they have just stuck to the areas that you see behind these 3 elephants. It's only made up of about 10 individuals, if that, and they just stick to the mountains down here in the southwestern part of the reserve. And for 1 or 2 days a year, they go all the way up north when the trees up there are fruiting. The black monkey apples and oranges are fruiting around August time of year, and then they'll come back down here. But that's about the most that they ever venture away from the mountains. The rest of the elephants that we've got here in Phinda all came from the Kruger Park, and they move far and wide where they want to. But we're going to head off to Lauren, who's sitting with a hippo carcass, and we'll see what's happening there.
Well, we're back at the site of the poor hippopotamus. Got a different angle this time. You can actually see the teeth. It's definitely a youngster, sub-adult. The reason we've came back is not the most pleasant of scenes, but both the leopard, the male leopard, and the hyena that we spotted were sort of heading in this direction. And I don't think the leopard for 1 minute is going to come and try and steal the hippo, but maybe they're extremely attracted to the scent, this really strong aroma that's filtering its way through the air, being swept by the wind. And I just wondered if, well, the hyena will definitely appear on the scene, but I wonder if the leopard's maybe attracted to the smell as well and wants to sort of investigate what's going on. I really want to know who the male leopard was. So we're just going to sit here for a little while. I have to say, oh my goodness, look at all these impala. You see them, Simon? Oh my goodness. I don't think you should be walking up to male lion, guys. I'm not sure they've seen him. Oh, there you go. Justin?
Fan.
Oh my goodness. I think he has. He's completely repositioned. The hippopotamus is open from the belly, if you like, and he's completely repositioned to the sort of rear end. And his head was up when we first arrived. I think he was feeding again. And we zoomed in earlier, and I cannot even find the words to describe the flesh that was crawling and moving with maggots and all sorts. So it's not very pleasant around that side, I can assure you. But I think he's feeding. He's not bulging. His tummy's not as huge as I've seen it before. I think he keeps going for a snooze, waking up, having a nibble, going for a snooze, having another nibble. What a life. So I think he has actually fed in that time that we went for a little look to look for the leopard. I'm surprised at these impala, I must say. They must be able to smell that. It's all young boys. Oh, there's a few older rams there too. Not a good idea, guys. Abort, abort. I was actually going to show you the horn earlier. Let's do that now so I don't forget. Simon, if we can just zoom. I have showed this before, but I think it's just extremely fascinating. I, of course, did not take this from the animal. We found it. But first, I'll just give you sort of a view because it turns and starts to twist again. This is an older ram. And then if we can zoom in here, Simon, you'll see this is a bone. So they don't shed their horns. They don't, like antlers from deer, they're completely different. So this is actually bone. It's normally completely attached to the skull. And I don't know what's happened to this one, but it's obviously snapped. So you can see the bone is very dense. It's very, very thick. And then I'm just going to turn it a little bit to the side, Simon. You can see here, from this covering here, is layer upon layer of keratin. Now, keratin is a very common material made up of protein in the animal kingdom, and it's layered and layered in such a way. I'm going to try and snap this off. Nope, nothing is happening. So it's layered in such a way that it provides a coating for the bone. It completely protects the bone, and you can see it's ridged all along, and that's the actual bone right underneath, ridged and then covered in keratin. And it's ridged for interlocking. So when they lock horns, they can sort of lock against these ridges. And that's exactly the insides in great detail of an impala horn. And they don't shed them. This one has just broken. I think the boys are finally realizing that there's a potential threat in the form of dark mane over there. Or are they? These two here are having a little groom. Maybe they're not aware. But dark mane wouldn't go after an impala. It's too sleepy and lazy right now. Abba, you're 11 years old and you are asking a question. Fantastic. I love the questions from the younger generation. Now, you're asking what's the main competitor for a lion? Now, with the predators, we normally see there's a bit of a hierarchy. But I'm not sure hierarchy is a very good word. I always try to describe all the predators. I know many of you have heard this before, but all the predators out here, lion, leopard, hyena, wild dog, and cheetah, they're all like a big chunk of pizza. A big slice of yummy, delicious pizza, and now I'm going to get hungry. And they all fit together in that pizza nicely, like a circle, like one big pie, and they all slot in, rather than a hierarchy. But lions are said to be the apex predator, so they're said to be right at the top, and that's because they really do gain strength in numbers. They've got not only power behind them, they're much bigger than a leopard, much stronger than a leopard, lots of muscle mass. They've also got strength in numbers. There's many of them. And I know dark mane's alone right now, but he does form part of a coalition with 2 other males, and he's normally with the pride of females, with lots of sub-adults. So that's where the lions get their strength, from the sheer body mass and the numbers. Whereas a leopard's on its own, it's solitary. It's also got power, it's also got more muscle than the likes of a cheetah, but not like a lion. They're remarkably small next to a lion, but they have the power to hoist. They're very silent on their feet. There's no one else around them that can give the game away. They're camouflage. They can ambush, stalk, kill their prey, and then they can immediately hoist it using those specially designed shoulder blades. Cheetahs are fast. They don't have any muscle power behind them, but they're fast. Hyenas, well, they've got a lot of things going from them. They're just not scared of anything. They can eat rotten, they can scavenge, they can steal, they can crunch through bones. And wild dogs, they have their pack. They're also incredible at hunting. They hunt via coursing, which is running. So that's just a really brief overview of all the predators that fit into the sort of predator, and again, I use this word loosely, hierarchy. So if you think about it, to a lion, one leopard's not a threat. A leopard would run, but it's a numbers game. So let's just say 4 or 5 hyenas approached this scene right now. They walked up to Darkmane. Darkmane would most likely leave. He would most likely run. One, he's injured, and he would not take on 4 or 5 strong hyenas. One hyena he would probably ignore, but 4 or 5 hyenas he would probably leave. So it's really a numbers game. But lions are said to be at the top. So generally speaking, they don't have too many competitors. But hyenas will steal. Any predator will absolutely steal when they can. They're all opportunistic at the end of the day. So we're just going to sit here a little bit longer, just in case the scene changes. And we're going to send you across to some very thirsty elephants.
Welcome back, everybody, to 3 very thirsty elephants. Remember we spoke about that one having maybe a little bit of discomfort where he would have had that left-hand side or that tusk on the left-hand side. He's quite interestingly now filled his trunk with water and put his trunk in that cavity and just almost like flushed it out. Maybe there was something, who knows if there is a bit of an infection there or the likes that could be putting him in a bit of discomfort, just trying to flush that cavity out. No, he's just stopped, but it was really interesting to watch. I've never seen that happen with an elephant. I've seen him on the contrary pick up mud and try and almost like patch a hole and fill it with mud to try and ease that pain and discomfort. Almost sounds like a burst pipe, but this particular watering hole is filled up manually. There's not something that's turned on and off, and I think that's one of these elephants just breathing through its trunk. Let's have a look now. You can hear that if I keep quiet for 2 seconds. Almost like a hissing sound. I thought I had a flat tire a while ago, which would have put us in an interesting spot, but it's just them breathing. There's a buffalo that's made a cameo appearance just to the bottom where the left-hand side where that trunk is resting, and the foreground now, you've got a glossy starling that's also made an appearance. Beautiful colors in this afternoon light. But just as we've called that elephant out for that discomfort, have a look there. He's put that trunk straight back into that spot again now. Maybe, you never know, there's a piece of tusk that's still sort of wedged in there that he's trying to dislodge or move. Or if that is the case with us, like a loose tooth, it can be super uncomfortable. And that can be the cause of why things like elephants can be a little bit more upset than usual with people who drive past and view them, if they take their frustration or their anger because of something like that out on something else. But he is actually really chilled, which is quite nice for us to just sit and observe him, and really, really interesting behavior as he fiddles in that cavity. We spoke about ways that they might cool themselves down. You'll see fourth leg or an appendage there. Mfele, you're asking if elephants have good night vision. They do have really good night vision. And one or two documentaries that they filmed at the cover of darkness with thermal imaging that shows them chasing things around that, otherwise black lions, nocturnal predators that would potentially cause them a little bit of unrest if there were youngsters in the herd. But they do have really good eyesight. In fact, all three of their senses are really, really good. And they, for 2/3 of their day, will be up and feeding, so they've obviously got to keep their wits about them. Here they are I wouldn't say the apex predator, but the animals who dominate this reserve, so they've got nothing to fear. And this is super interesting. Now watch the scene unfold with the buffalo. That herd of buffalo that we saw, I actually thought they were making their way away from the watering hole, are now making their way to the watering hole, and it would be interesting to see if these elephants are happy to share the water with them. But when animals are thirsty, they'll try their best to push everything aside and just get to the water to drink, because this is a very valuable resource out here, water. Aren't you asking how often buffaloes need to drink? At least once a day. If you follow them around, you are bound to catch them drinking at least once. But sometimes on really hot days, up to about twice a day, and probably morning and afternoon. In fact, it's a really nice view of them drinking. I'm going to creep ever so slightly further forward for you to get a view of them drinking. Or if I ask Owen how the view is there, let's creep a little bit further forward here to catch them, and they'll probably get right in this watering hole. There we are, and this light that we've got coming from behind us, the sun slowly starting to dip to the west of us, is phenomenal. They're quite lucky here. The elephants are drinking from the concrete trough, and the buffalo are drinking from the overflow of that trough that looks like somewhat of a natural watering hole out here, but it is the overflow of that trough. And you can see they are not scared to get knee deep, these buffalo, in the water to quench their thirst. I'm not sure if you heard that, but it sounded like a gargling noise. That was one of the elephants passing wind. It actually just farted in our presence, which is really amusing to hear, and a little bit of a distraction. So that's what you heard now when I kept quiet. Not even blushing, that elephant. But the buffalo still, you'll see them. Quite a big herd of buffalo that are making their way. A couple of that have already drank are now moving back, probably to an area that has a little bit more nutritious grass for them to graze. But the rest all coming down to have their full of water. And this would be an ideal time or place for something like those lions to perhaps, if there was a young buffalo calf, opportunistic at them. There are 4 of them there with 3 young males to try and hunt them. Okay, I'm not sure if you heard that low rumble from one of these elephant bulls as well now, but really good opportunity for them. Although here on Phinda they're so spoiled for choice with things like Ngala, who don't put as much of a fight up as things like buffalo would, and the risk of injury from something like a Ngala is far less than that of a buffalo. So they're probably just listening to this commotion at the watering hole and sleeping away. just listening to more of these elephant noises that are coming. Buffalo also just keeping a wary eye, but also the elephant's quite tolerant of these buffalo who are almost overtaking in their masses here at the watering hole. Oh! A female just bullied that calf right out the way, almost straight into the elephants. Bit of a standoff. We've got company now. One of these elephants seems like it's wanting to make its way back towards where it came from, so I'm just going to reverse ever so slightly so it can cross in front of us and not be put off by the fact that by the fact that we are here in its way. That's fine, we've stopped because it stopped, but if it does decide to carry on coming, we'll probably just roll down the hill to let it walk on by. Everything's gone rather quiet here at the watering hole. The buffalo have started moving off. Have a look here. This elephant's having a bit of a dust bath. Might just kick some sand up with its toe, loosen the sand up, and then throw that on its underbelly to try and cool off. And with this bit of a breeze that you'll see now, that's just going to go straight off to the left. Quite a dramatic scene. It's amazing. But we're going to head off to Andrew with his bird and see what's happening over there.
Oh, sorry, the bird is gone. It was such a beautiful bird that was a European roller, which we don't often see, but they are very sometimes flighty this time of the day. Remember, European roller, they only come our area, most part of the Kruger National Park, or entire of it, when it's wet. So what drove them in, it's a benefit of a feeding habitation for them, which they were able to get enough of what they need, pretty much insect, and that's what drove them in. So I'm not sure if there is one in front of me now, sitting on their power line there. If it's the same one, that would be so great, because we didn't actually get a look of the first one that we saw. Or could it be the same one that flew into that direction there? So I'm gonna this time stop slightly way distances, just to see if maybe Johan will get us the view there. It looks like we're gonna get it. Right there, that's our European roller. It's slightly bigger than a lilac-breasted roller, and you don't see a lot of that ragged tail or forked tail on its back tail, and you won't see that lilac colors in the throat there. But they also do kind of a display rolling action, where that does by many of these rollers, a name come from the display that they're doing, especially when the male, they're trying to impress the female by that display. What they do is fly up enough and come back to the earth by rolling action. But do that continuously, sometimes give a call that will be heard by other male that is around, because two male won't cooperate, usually always male and female, all separately. Trying to balance. There's actually a little wind picking up already since the sun is disappearing or through the cloud. Only see that bird does trying to balance or is gone. Sorry about that, everyone. So birds, They're all flighty because they're hunting so much. So I'm going to carry on now, see if we can find something else while I'm sending you over to another live station.
Look what we found. This is a jewel beetle. It really is a jewel, and we're really lucky to find this one because we don't see them that often. It's the first one I've seen of this particular species. So other than putting it in the large group of jewel beetles, I'm not too sure exactly which one, but the most amazing thing about jewel beetles is there's actually a couple of things. Is in the desert environment, this is one of the beetles that actually wants to function at a temperature of 40 degrees. It can go and function, so be fast flying, finding food, and active right up to 60 degrees. Now, 60 degrees seems like a lot, but you've got to remember that the soil temperature is going to be much higher than what the ambient temperature is around us. And this beautiful beetle, they're typically wood boring as larvae, and then this is the adult stage. Really, really beautiful. They've had records of this species. I was just reading to Davy that they found it emerge out of a yellow wood plank. The jewel beetle in general, after 60 years, and the adults actually only lay eggs on living trees. So they're also known to be extremely long-lived, and sometimes in that larval phase for groups of sort of 10 years at a time, or more than. So that's quite an amazing length of time for one little insect. But yeah, beautiful, beautiful coloration. Black and white for me in this situation tends to almost blend in with the bark, so it is not necessarily that easily seen, but he didn't escape our eyesight. It was actually the white on the beetle that stood out for me. It almost looks like a bird dropping, and that was why we stopped and had a look at this. So send your questions at WildEarth, hashtag WildEarth, and we'll see if you're interested in any insects or any other questions that we can ask at Tswalu.
Bug just disturbed him.
Really?
Yeah.
Let me have a look, see what other kind of bug just disturbed him. So you see very large compound eyes. What bug?
Was this one of those small green ones ran off to the left on that branch?
No, I didn't see it. I didn't see it on the monitor either. Susie's asking how big is this beetle. So I'd probably say it's close on nearly the thickness of your thumb, and probably a good 4 centimeters. It's quite a big beetle. I'm tempted to put my hand in the shot so that you can see size relative to my hand, but I also don't want to disturb him. So maybe, that's my shadow. That's my thumb. It doesn't quite work, but it is actually quite a big beetle, about 4 centimeters, and probably at least 1.5 centimeters across the carapace. So from sort of what would be the beetles left and right, and then front to back, about 4 centimeters. And then from top to bottom, probably also about 1.5 centimeters. So we're going to leave this beetle just hanging out. We're going to send you to Matt with his buffalo.
Welcome back, everybody, to the ever so small beetles, to some of the larger mammals that we get here on Phinda. Buffalo, still a couple of them drinking away, and then these 2 elephant bulls still slowly having their full of water. Buffaloes have come and now they're venturing away a bit, and you can see just how barren it is here around this watering hole, where things like these buffalo will come and graze it flat, and a lot of things will actually come and feed around here because there's a lot of water around the grass, a little bit more nutritious than other areas away from the watering hole, and it's almost barren now. It's been eaten flat. I think there are one or two buffalo that have walked around the elephants to see if they can't come and have a bit of a drink from the trough, but they're not so keen to share the same spot as the elephants, so they actually are going back down and around now. And now if we have a look just to the right, of these buffalo here, there are two young males who are got their heads down and are having a bit of a tussle, and with them you can just see by their size they're not the biggest and they're not the most dominant males here or bulls, but maybe just trying to square up and see, where they stand in amongst themselves and see what it really takes to fight properly. And buffaloes who are fighting for dominancy of a herd, it can be quite brutal to watch that boss that they've got on top of their head, and now you can actually see its purpose for males just to protect their heads, and they'll try and twist and turn their horns to get, there you go, to get a grip on each other, and then they'll try and fling like they would a predator into midair, trying to battle it out. There's a third now that's wanting to join in on the fun, but yeah, that wasn't serious at all. That's just them trying to see where they stand with one another. That's it. A younger bull now. Their horns still quite a bit from the droop below their boss are still quite a bit higher than the boss, and that drop or will eventually drop so much so that the curl of their horns will almost sit flush with the top of their boss. This elephant now is slowly but surely making his way back towards where his friends come from. Head is full of water, and we'll watch him walk away. And maybe now you'll see the buffaloes like a crowd coming to see if they can't push this last one, and they slowly but surely they gather momentum and safety with each other. They'll keep pushing and pushing and pushing. Taylor, you're asking if female buffalo fight with one another. I've never seen female buffalo fight with one another, but there was a cow now for female buffalo that pushed quite a young buffalo out the way. It physically put its head on its side and pushed it a good few meters away, so obviously not tolerating it. Maybe it was trying to see if it couldn't suckle from it, maybe also another mom, but I've never seen them lock horns like big buffalo bulls do. With big buffalo bulls, they've got, like we said now, we mentioned, Taylor, the big boss that they've got on the top of their head to protect them. Females have that very thin set of horns, so it might be a bit of a push or a shove, but that's not something that they'll actively go do, is go fight with one another. There's actually quite a large bull in the watering hole now, busy licking his lips. You can see he's a little bit weathered, a little bit more weathered. He's older, he's actually walking away from us now, but you could see the symmetry in his horns there compared to the younger ones that we saw with their horns that were almost straight up. And that's what they do when they're really young. Their horns will go straight up, and then over time they'll slowly but surely drop to that uniform sort of shape of theirs, with, like I was saying, the curl of the horns almost in line with the top of their boss. Starting to cool off quite a bit now as well, and I'm wondering if those lions won't eventually, with all the commotion of now the water splashing, etc., from the buffalo, if they won't poke their heads up and come and have a closer look. Jacob, you're asking what the average buffalo herd size is here in Phinda. There looks like here to me about just under 100 buffalo. There might be one or two larger herds of buffalo than this, maybe 100, 150 of them, but that's, I'd say, about the average. There are smaller herds as well that travel together, maybe 20, 30 that we've seen here or there, but the larger ones about 100, 150. And then we've sometimes seen or filmed buffalo bulls, those older buffalo bulls, or dugger boys as they are dubbed, that are together, 2, 3, 4 of them in an area. They're just too old to keep up with a herd like this. Typically a little bit more grumpy than your average buffalo bull. So yeah, also quite wary of them, and will give them their space. But yeah, I'd say the average buffalo herd size here is around 100 animals. I'm gonna stick around here a little bit more and see if the lions don't join them, but we're gonna send you off to Andrew and his Impala.
Thanks so much, Matt. It's always very great important just to see, especially when it comes to very much sun going down. The lions are more likely to do something. And then here we come to this slightly open area, and then a few of them young and bigger male impala that some of them, they were trying to kind of making a noise, but they're looking very much around. But it's always so important just to see what could be threatening them, where mainly leopard would be a chance that would hunt such antelope, since they're actually medium size to get hunted by other lions, sometimes hyena, packs of wild dogs, cheetah, leopard very much. So I'm going to take maybe just a slightly silent, just to hear what they're mourning about. So they're all gone back to feed again. But whatever it's actually wind is slightly picking up, so there's a chance where they're looking now, it's the direction of the wind coming from. So you find that they even sense predators from way distances. That makes them worry sometimes. And they won't get or move away from here. This one's looking very much tensely from Kathy. You want to know how fast is Impala? So they're extremely fast, the antelope. They run anything from 65, 70 kilometers an hour, and could be more than that when they trying to get away immediately from the danger. But of course, even though they move so fast, what they prey or predators do, they aim for their target. So even they're fast enough, but if they're close enough to get caught, and they're never so much faster, because two-step, if it's a leopard close by, and of course we'll get onto that animal and it caught it down. So they get away if there's a chance. The predator is far away, and they always make their life safe by moving out of the site immediately. But they're keeping very much looking out in that direction. So after this, I'm going to drive around it slightly into that bush. It's always very much interesting just to see if there would be any cats around here that makes them look around so much. And it's just to remember, all just a group of males over here, combined young male, which are just born last year, and some of them are all looks like 3 years old. They're around here. These one they haven't actually, those one that you see with these horns length enough to be one of the dominant, but I think they haven't actually made it through yet or winning any of a battle during that fight of a writing season. We're now all females. Tiki, so you want to know how long the impala live for. So roughly 12, 13 years. Especially out in the wild, since they actually are medium source of many of predators, but including also python, the big snake, would prey on impalas. So, and if the young one, even a jackal, will get around trying to kill it down. So that's average lifespan for them. But I'm sure if they're in a cage, they'll probably reach anything from maybe 18, I'm sure, but 12 years roughly, they can make it up. And they're all puffed up, they're caught. Remember, this is actually to provide a warmer if it's now colder taking place, since the temperature drop already with the sun setting. And now they're just going to move away from that last look. It's so cool that if there's anything behind them, since they started to move away, there's a chance if there's anything will pop up and we'll probably see what it was. But they can sometimes alarm call for something they're not too sure about, just the movement. It's so important for them to be able to warn each other in this group. So it's just a small bachelor group, and many of the female right now, some of them are still, giving birth already. Some of them already dropped their babies, where there's not much of a attraction for these male to be able to defend them, their high rim, because there's no business with them anymore, and they don't defend the young one from getting killed. Usually some male who are brave enough to allow these male to approach to rejoin the high rim again. So I'm going to be linking you back to a match with these elephants while I'm checking around if there's anything around this impala.
Welcome back, everybody, to andBeyond, where now it feels like we've been here for an eternity watching these three elephants drink. But yeah, maybe about an hour and a half. The three of them have decided to move off and carry on eating this afternoon. This one, the light that we've got coming through is unbelievable. He's just followed. You can see those paths in the road that he's busy following, or he was following. You'll probably hop back on that path and venture off to where the other two have come from. And now, because it is as cool as it is, we might see a little bit more movement from those lions, and I'm really hoping that the four of them actually come up to the watering hole to drink. But you can see now, after all that trunk movement on top of the tusk, just how clean that tusk is of this elephant. We feels like we're going to have to snap our necks to look back and follow him. And as I said, putting on a bit of a show here for us this afternoon. We are directly downwind, so I wouldn't be surprised if we catch wind of that. You almost need one of those 4D cinemas at home for you to experience this like we are here. But that's what he thinks of us watching him. What you see him doing now on a really hot day as well, you might see them that penis out. Can also weigh about 25 kilograms, 25 kilograms, and with a bit of a breeze blowing, you can imagine how much that cools him down as well. For such a big individual, you know, if it's not the ear flapping, if they aren't close by to water, that's exactly what they'll do as well to try and cool themselves off. Amazing to see just how big those ears are from behind in perspective, or in proportion to the size of the rest of their body. They are massive. And as it's been walking away from us, deadly quiet. Besides when things like that thorn tree scrape along that very thick skin of it, really, really quiet. We're probably going to lose light in the next short while. But I'm hoping that before then, and I might just have to turn around for us to appreciate, I'm really hoping that we get a spectacular sunset this evening, but I'll turn around for that just now. Really hoping that those lions come to join us here, either at the water or just out in the open, because it is cool. There's no real reason for them to hide in uncomfortable positions where they were. So they too could potentially come out into the open. Things like black rhino will also drink under the cover of darkness. They just prefer when the watering holes are quiet. Things like buffalo have moved off, elephants have moved off, and it's just peace and quiet for them to come down to drink. So who knows, maybe out of the same woodlands that these elephants have emerged from, we strike gold with something like a black rhino this afternoon. Most amazing afternoon. It was overcast and quite chilly this morning, but it's Phinda, you're asking what my favorite thing about elephants is. Sure, I think just their sheer size, the fact that they can be deadly quiet as well, and that they, at the end of the day, rule the roost out here in the bush. If there are things like elephants around, they'll chase them away. They're super protective of their calves, or at least the matriarchs are. But yeah, just gentle giants. If you give them their space to do their thing, they are fascinating to watch. They, just with their trunks, their tusks, you name it, the big ears, and just how we heard now how deadly quiet they are. There's quite a few things about them that make them, or quite a few favorite things about them, should I say, at least with elephants. Can still just see the one. Still just see the one. I think the third has now moved off into the woodlands. There is still a bit of a breeze blowing, so maybe trying to get a bit of a break from that. Their ears probably work overtime when it's gusty, as you can probably hear on the mic how windy it is here where we are. But when they move off into the woodlands where it's a little bit more sheltered from the wind, get a bit of a break from that and don't have to rely as much on their sense of hearing. What I might just do is I'll let those, I think we've had a fantastic afternoon with those 3 elephants. We're going to head on up back to the watering hole and maybe back and around to the lions so we can sit and watch them and the sunset disappear.
I've got your audio. There's a road that breaks
to the west, over the Limbomba mountain range. We might hit a bit of traffic as we come up and over the hill, unless those buffalo have moved off, but let's see if we can't find those lions. See them.
Lunchtime. Look at all of them little ground squirrels. There's 2 females and then 2 little youngsters. You can see the one in the middle, much smaller than the other 2. And they'll only emerge out of the burrows at about 6 weeks. So this is the first time I've seen these ones. These are relatively close to a sort of a high traffic area. So that's why they're so relaxed with our presence. We're relatively close, but little grass shoots and leaves, whatever they can get hold of. Oh, some grooming. Isn't this just an adorable scene? Squirrels are one of those animals that will have a high energy requirement. Often the smaller the animal, the sort of surface area to body ratio, the more they need to eat. So with them being rodents, they have sort of 2 teeth that meet that consistently grow all the time. So they have to just keep gnawing and chewing on things to keep those teeth nice and level. So, but look at how they use their little front arms or their hands as like hands, really. What I suppose everybody else is like legs, but just nibble, nibble, nibble. So they do sometimes. They're not typical to store things in their cheeks. The ground squirrels, they're not like chipmunks, but they will sometimes store food in certain places as like a larder. But then I always find it strange how they even remember where they found what that they've hidden. The adults have also been doing some burrow maintenance. That's why they're a little bit more rufous red in color. Add your comments down on the thing. Just one word as to how to describe this. Linda, I agree with you. They are so cute. And she's busy grooming her tail. Very, very pretty. So the sun's just behind a cloud at the moment, which is why they can enjoy their lunch without having to worry about using their tail as their shade. But that's what she's busy cleaning now. She was cleaning her tail. Now she's busy eating again, I think. You just see. Yeah. So they'll like bulbs and tubers, all sorts of other things, and even insects as well. So they will eat insects, but very, very cute with the way that they just gobble, gobble, gobble. So Digo is asking if squirrels are related to meerkats. It would be a no, because squirrels are in the rodent family and meerkats are in with the mongoose family. So they're completely separate families, and it's most of the time mammals are divided. One of the things would be by their teeth structure. So squirrels having those incisors that meet, that need to be ground down all the time because they're rodents. Other rodents with in their category that we may be able to show you would be like spring hare or porcupine. And then the mongoose having sharp canines because they've got they are carnivores, eating more meaty things and insects. So most animals would be classified based on their tooth structure, and of course body features. Certain animals are clumped together because they share certain body features, but they're not related. They're happy to live together, however, in the burrows, because neither one sees the other as competition. The squirrels are sort of herbivores, eating the vegetation, and the mongoose or the meerkats more eating insects and other forms of prey. So they're happy to cohabit a burrow system, not necessarily the same hole, but the same system, and they'll be helping each other from an alarm call perspective. You notice that squirrels just sort of did an up down with the tail. With the tree squirrels, if they're agitated, sometimes you see that behavior with the tail. But squirrels, if they're threatened by an aerial predator, they'll do very, very fast maneuvering, zipping left to right, and they actually swing their tail quite quickly left to right to try and confuse an aerial predator. And the idea would be to try and get down a hole as fast as possible. Sassy Cassie is asking what predators like to snack on ground squirrels. I would have to put it in the jackal. They certainly they respond pretty quickly to jackal, and having youngsters in the burrow for up to about 50 days, they'd also have to be very wary of snakes. Out in this area, things like puff adder and Cape cobra would make them vulnerable. Hopefully that answers your question. It's nice to see them feeding in one place. Normally ground squirrels are quite busy, a little bit all over the place, and if they dash off at speed, they are gone. But there you can see he's just pulled up the roots of the grass stalk. Doesn't have to go far. Food is literally at the door. Door-to-door delivery. So a predator that Matt has, I've never seen try and catch a ground squirrel. You're going to go over to Matt with his lions.
Welcome back to Phinda, everybody, where these lions have had to move because of that herd of buffalo. As soon as we left, the elephants saw the lions standing on the road that we came in on, and you can see now how these buffalo have slowly but surely started gathering confidence together. They're now backing away, but there's one of the young male lions, 10 meters away from them. The whole herd was here chasing them away. Mom ran other side of the road, but then the youngsters seem to have gained, the young male lions seem to have gained a bit of confidence themselves to walk to where maybe 10, 15 meters away from the buffalo, and it's just a couple of bulls that are squaring off with them for the time being. You can see now how they're all grooming. This one here in picture has a bit of a wound on its front right shoulder. Could be from one of the other males, maybe even mom if they manage to catch something small. When there's not a lot of meat left on a carcass, that's when you'll see lions become the biggest of enemies amongst one another and lash out at one another. And maybe it was a claw or a tooth that managed to catch that one, or even the dominant males that you saw drinking with Deerwald the other day. They are now at the age where they try and push them out of the pride and do just that. And if they put up a bit of resistance, a wound like that could quite definitely appear. Duncan, you're asking the biggest male lion coalition within Phinda. In terms of dominant coalitions, both the north males are just 2, and then the south male lions are also just a pair of male lions. This here in front of us, these 3 would then be the next up-and-coming dominant coalition. Not right now. They're not nearly at the age where they can dominate a pride or take over from the current males, but their males look like mohawks more than anything else. But they've still got about 2 to 3 years before, they'll go nomadic in those 2 to 3 years, and then eventually try to look to take over from the males that are dominant at the time. But the biggest coalition of males that we've got here in Phinda in terms of dominant males is 2. Very different body language and behavior that we saw a little bit earlier on. The buffalo maybe gave them a bit of a rude awakening, so they've had to wake up and move about. And I wonder if I'm in picture. The buffalo herd have moved off to our left-hand side, but that's what this young male is busy watching here behind us, are those buffalo moving around them. And where we are, the wind is swirling quite a bit, so they can probably still smell them. They might still lift their heads and walk up towards them here and just chase them even further away, because there are 1 or 2 young buffalo calves in that herd, which, you know, if they do lag behind, could be a potential target or prey for these lions. But because there are Impala, wildebeest, and the likes that might come down to drink early hours of the morning and late afternoon, they're probably not going to try their luck and risk getting injured from them. One or two grunts coming from those buffalo behind us as well, and you often hear that when there's something that's Lucy, you're asking if all the lions on Phinda come from the same bloodline. No, they don't. The 3 prides that we've got, I think, yeah, there's at least 3 different bloodlines in each. So no, they're not all from the same bloodline. Mom in the road in the middle, you can see, has her chin down now, fast asleep again. We are going to have to take a different path home later on, that's for sure, if she doesn't move between now and then. But the youngsters, and that just goes to show with experience and age, how they've all 3 got their heads up. They were busy grooming, starting to show signs of waking up, but they were, like I said, woken up prematurely by the buffalo. And he got a bit of a stretch from this youngster. I think he might come and join the rest up on the road. But we're going to go from these fairly relaxed lions to Lauren with her relaxed hyena.
Very relaxed. Everyone is snoozing. I think we have heart. It's tricky to tell. We're in infrared, just in case you couldn't tell already. Doesn't feel like there's enough ambient light at the moment because of the weather. So yeah, we have heart and heart's cubs. I think both the male and female are there. And then we have Miss Princess at the entrance. Oh my goodness, I just made up my own word and it's perfect. Corky's daughter is sitting at the entrance. Stroke of genius right there. I was trying to say den entrance, but there you go. Hello, beautiful. She doesn't even look like a small cub anymore. I'm pretty sure that's her. Oh no, wait, I could be completely wrong and getting all my hyenas muddled up. If it is, look at that spot pattern. All of them now, except June's little one, of course, have developed, well, they've always had their spots, but they just become much more visible once the rest of the hair lightens. But the spots are always there. The hair is always dark in those patches. And the spot pattern stays the same from juvenile all the way through to adulthood, which is a good thing. You can't confirm any species, be it in the ocean or on land, using a spot pattern if it changes throughout sort of development. If it changes from juvenile to sub-adult to adult, it can't be concluded as a spot pattern. And we use the spots on the hyena side. There's many different organisms throughout the animal kingdom. You can use a special spot pattern on the areas of whale sharks. You can use the scute pattern on the side of sea turtle's face. I worked closely with greens, olive ridleys and hawksbills. And they all have unique scute patterns, can you believe it? We know giraffes, we know zebras, but it's not just land animals that you can work with. But the sort of rule of thumb is that you must scientifically analyze the spot pattern through development, and it must stay the same from juvenile all the way through to adulthood. And then you can use it as an official spot pattern to identify an individual. If it changes or alters or develops, then you can't use it. But luckily for hyenas, it's the same throughout their life. And it is present when they're a tiny little cub. It's just all the rest of the hair surrounding the spots is very, very dark. And for those of you that missed sunrise, we managed to see June's cub. Tammy, oh my goodness, you have just asked me the most difficult, controversial question. Whew. The cogs in my brain are turning ever so slowly. Which is my favourite hyena? You've thrown me under the bus here. To be honest, I'm always honest. Out of the females, I've always had a very soft spot and a sort of close feeling and relationship with Ribbon. And I know she's the matriarch now, so it sounds very cliche to say the matriarch, but I have always adored Ribbon. I've always felt slightly sorry for her. She was bullied really badly. She was the lowest ranker. I got bullied so severely at school. I used to get beat up most Friday afternoons. Oh, incoming. Is this Intima? Greeting ceremonies all around. Everybody, did you see those prominent mammary glands? Did you see them? Can you see them? Apart from the pseudo-penis. Intima, is that you? Oh my goodness, this can only mean one thing. That's Intima. She lifted her leg there. And on either side of that long dangly thing is very prominent nipples. Intima, darling, do you have something to tell us? I've been speculating about Intima for a while. This is very sweet. This is a lovely interaction. Intima has a good relationship with Heart. Fascinating interaction. Just as I was babbling on about being bullied. Intima ranks higher than Heart, but that was a nice interaction. Heart's always been in good favour with Intima and Ribbon. Look at the youngster doing a greeting ceremony. That is a tantrum, ladies and gentlemen, a hyena tantrum. adherence. Wow. Please, can any of you who managed to see Ntima's mammary glands, please let us know, #WildEarth, and tell me I'm not crazy. We're working with serious lack of light here in IR, but I'm pretty sure that's what I saw. There's obviously lots of dangly bits on a female hyena, which can be rather confusing. But please, #WildEarth, tell me I'm not crazy. I'm looking forward to FC's update, Lauren. You are officially not crazy. But back to your question. Ribbon, I love her so much. And I also have really strong feelings towards Corky. I just love them all. In terms of the males, Saka's got a little piece of my heart. He's got such character, and I have to say, Swazi doesn't only have a piece of my heart, but has a lot of my belongings in his tummy. He cost me an absolute fortune. All my own fault. And out of the cubs, it would be impossible to choose. For some reason, I did fall in love with Ngwazi. But I just love the Djuma clan, so that's probably a terrible answer, but at least it was an answer all the same. Okay, so I'm going to try and stay here as long as there's an adult and enjoy every moment, but we're going to send you across to Andrew with these sleepy lions.
Good luck, Lauren, with these hyena. Hopefully they get up to something very interesting. Here we got back to this pride of lion since we saw them earlier, and they haven't moved. And my idea was to return back here just before very dark, so we possibly see if they would ever get to move towards the waterhole, which many of them, they right in the middle of the road where it's kind of like very comfortable for them. It just rained, so the soil itself, it's warm. The ground it's warm. The grasses actually provide very much sponge, comfortable if they're lying on the grasses, but also the wind penetrate less when they're flat on the grasses. Would admire very much. Brent, so here we're looking at we count, I think, 13, 14 animals in this pride. So what we've seen here, they are probably fed last night. Possibly they might feed again tonight if there's a chance that they kill anything. But for them to be able to kill, so it's every time, any day. So what pushed them is that they're not too sure what the next food would be available. Once they get enough chance to hunt, they keep on hunting on it. And unless if they get anything bigger game down, like a buffalo, also giraffe or bigger wildebeest for such a pride. But if it's just an impala or a young wildebeest, those young zebras, no, they would have probably finished in one go, that won't even last maybe a half an hour. And then again, they'll be probably looking to hunt for another prey to be able to sustain the whole members in this pride. So they will probably kill every evening, or if they're lucky enough in this pride, or sometimes they depend. If there is no game around, they have to plan a movement to find where the game is. Sorry about that, radio. So once she's up, maybe this is one of the signs that everybody will be getting to move soon. So the wind is blowing from the south to the north, where in most cases, cat species, when they hunt lion and leopard, they use chance of a wind, always downwind the prey. So they would actually move towards the wind. So that is a chance they would be able to smell whatever's in front of them, but also a chance that won't be much of a smell to their prey species they're trying to hunt if there's anything in front of them. So I'm going to stay put here. I'm going to link you back to a match with these lines.
Welcome back, everybody, to Phinda, where these 4 lions are still just watching that herd of buffalo pass by off to our left-hand side through the fever trees. Here I grunt from one of the buffaloes. They're still moving in the dip down below, and it's probably a little bit more protected from the wind there. I'm sure they still know the lions are here, not too far from them, but it's almost as if the lions are watching a movie. All just fixed, and in places like where Lauren is and Eric in the Kruger Park, or the Greater Kruger National Park, you'll find prides of lions that will just hunt buffalo. They'll follow them, stalk them, and hunt them. And it's just interesting to watch them as they do that. Watch this particular herd of buffalo here off to our left. Just weighing up the options, sizing everything up, probably trying to notice if there's a weaker or injured individual that, is falling behind, one that's an easier target than one that's a little bit more fit and healthy. But I don't think they will set off in their direction. Like I said, they are super spoilt with everything else in terms of prey, that there's no need for them to hunt animals as large as buffalo. It's gotten dark quite quickly, but scary to think that it's still 7 o'clock and as light as it is. It's most definitely summer in full swing here. It's cooled down significantly as well, so now that night time is fast approaching. You can see the youngsters showing more signs of getting active, the yawning. Maybe this one's now seen an opportunity, but in experience this would probably be an invaluable life lesson for it if it does decide to commit to something with these buffalo. Ethan, you're asking at what age they contribute to a kill. I'm pretty sure that between the 3 of them, could bring something like an Impala down or a warthog piglet. I think it was with Pete the other day that one of them caught a warthog piglet, if I'm not mistaken. But at around 2.5 years is when the females at least will definitely contribute. They'll move off, follow each other around, and actively try and help in a hunt, try flash things towards one another. These 3 males are not far off that age, but soon they're going to be on their own and they're going to have to hunt for themselves. So they probably can hunt for themselves, but with Mom being here, far more successful hunter, just easier for them to wait for Mom to do the hard yards and then go and tuck into whatever it is that she's managed to catch. So yeah, around 2.5 years is when they'll really contribute to a hunt, or at least the females. The males at this age, you'll see his body language now, he's up. I mean, he's watching the buffalo, but if it was something else, he would have just given themselves away. He's exposed, he's not very well hidden, but with the light fading as quickly as it is, maybe he's a little bit more camouflaged than what we think. Deadly quiet as he walks along the road as well, with those pads underneath those paws. If he sets off in that direction, I wouldn't be surprised if we see him running back quite quickly. If the buffalo do decide to all come together and then chase them away for the second time, and once bitten, twice shy. If it is going to happen a second time, that whole herd of buffalo will probably come steaming through. But as one of the younger male lion sets off towards them, the other two follow. This other one grooming itself. They don't look all that skinny in terms of hunger. That one is slowly walking away from us now. His belly relatively full. It looks like he's eaten the last couple of days, but will most certainly eat again if there is something on offer. Straight past Mom, who is not showing as much interest as the youngsters at all. And the third, I can only imagine, is going to get up and move off in the same direction shortly as well. A little bit of grooming going on. I wonder if that's the same one that had that wound on its shoulder. I myself can't really see, but now it's just also interesting to see just how much those black spots behind their ears show up. Black tip of the tail every time he flicks its tail. There, it gets up finally and heads towards the other brothers, and maybe the safety and comfort of Mom, who you saw, she was the first to, I think, evacuate from the scene when the buffalo initially chased them away from their sleeping spot, and then eventually came back to the road, which is probably slightly warmer than the area that they were lying in, so just trying to warm up because it has cooled off quite a bit this evening. And before they set off again, it will be interesting to see tomorrow where exactly they end up, the four of them. From one nocturnal predator to another, we're going to head off to Lauren. She's still with her hyena.
Nocturnal indeed. However, we're not ready to wake up just yet. Now, Shimbulu and Ngwazi made an appearance, but they've ran back inside the den. And Ntima's disappeared, but I do believe many of you opted to say that I'm not crazy and that you also noticed it. So I can't honestly determine at this stage what's happening with Ntima. That was such a brief visual. But a while back, Ntima's tummy did not have those prominent glands. Once a female is pregnant, they become very, very prominent. And then, of course, once a female is lactating and she's given birth, they become very full, just like any mammal. Part of being a mammal is producing milk, the females, at least, through their mammary glands, just like humans. And I'm wondering whether Ntima's pregnant. Now, I saw her a while back, and I'm trying to think when in my memory, and I saw the mammary glands, and immediately I thought, Ntima, you could be pregnant. So I wonder if she's still pregnant, and any minute now, Ntima could give birth. I'm not entirely sure at this stage she's given birth or not, but it would be so good if we could just get a better look at her underside. Now, hyenas are pregnant for 16 weeks, so it's 4 months. It's longer than the cats, not by much. And of course, as many of you know, they stash their cubs in natal dens before bringing them to the communal den. And this is the first time I've seen Djuma in quite some time. I wonder if I need to start checking den sites soon. And Djuma's going to be 4 in February, can you believe it? So she absolutely is the correct age. And the fact that Djuma's mother's the matriarch helps her a lot in terms of her position in the hierarchy, her health, her general well-being is vastly improved since her mother became the matriarch. If Ribbon was still right at the bottom of that hierarchy, it would not be good for Djuma. She would even be lower than her mother, most likely, although there was some doubts about that, and she would be a low-ranking female. Hi, you're asking about seasonality in pregnancy for hyenas. Now, they can get pregnant throughout the year. There's not really technically a season, like impalas, for example, who have the rutting season, and then all these sort of impalas drop their lambs at once. But generally speaking, like a lot of predators, they tend to coincide it with summer, because summer brings everything is plentiful. It brings water, it brings lush vegetation, and of course, many of the antelope species have their young, so it brings a plethora of food. Lambs, calves, all sorts. So generally speaking, they do time it with summer, but it's not restricted to a season, if that makes sense. And because they do den communally, once the cubs get to a certain age, it makes sense for them all to have their young at one time. So it's not bang on time. You see we've got different age groups here, but it does make sense for them to actually have their young all together so they can be stashed in the communal den together. It's really, really beneficial for a hyena clan. They need to socialize, they need to interact, they need to learn. They need to establish their place in the hierarchy. They need to understand who they're dominant to, who they're submissive to, who's the boss. Ryan, you're asking about the different species of hyena. We've got someone moving here. I can't see. We're almost in pitch darkness here. There's 4 species, and it comes under the umbrella Hyenidae. That's the name of the family. So in the... Oh, what are you doing? Hello? And the family consists of 4 species, and it's the brown hyena that you find quite often at Tswalu, for example. The striped hyena, which is very, very rare, but it's quite common in East Africa, potentially even Botswana. You then get the spotted hyena that we're looking at right now, the most common, the most numerous, and the largest of them all. And then you get the aardwolf. The aardwolf, believe it or not, is a termite eater. You will only find it eating termites and maybe in winter ants. So it's an insectivore, and it's in the Hyenidae family. You can find aardwolves at Tswalu as well, but they're also very nocturnal and very, very rare. So the 4 of them make up the family Hyenidae, and that's a family within the order Carnivora. Behaviorally, morphologically, they're just like dogs. They're like the canids, but actually in terms... Oh, we have another hyena. I don't know who that is over there. Well spotted, Simon. But phylogenetically, they're actually closely related to cats in comparison to dogs. But their closest relatives are the mongoose. Can you believe it? Oh, you see that lovely flash of white light? That is IR picks up the sort of closest thing in its range. So when the branches or the leaves of the trees blow in front of the hyena, it picks up that, and that's why it bleaches out and goes white like that. Oh, heart's so sleepy. Oh, and Tima, this is such exciting news. I can't stop thinking about it. I wonder if we'll maybe have a little holiday birth cubs, Christmas cubs. Now, the brown hyenas, believe it or not, are actually called the strand wolves. I think it comes from Afrikaans. My Afrikaans is obviously not that great, do not tell Davi, but they get called strand wolves. Now, first things first, they're not wolves. They're obviously hyenas, not closely related to wolves. As I mentioned, they are not part of the Canidae family, which the wolves belong to. They're part of their own family. And the strand wolf, I believe, means beach. They're often found on the beach, and especially on the skeleton coast of Namibia. It's a very famous place to see the brown hyenas because they hunt the seals. So it's this sort of wonderful synergy between land and ocean, where the hyenas have came to understand that they can feast on the seals that come on land. They don't go swimming in the ocean to hunt them. We've never heard of it before. Definitely Google it. And that's where you can find really fantastic sightings of the brown hyena. And the aardwolf, there you go again, wolf. It's not technically correct. It's not a wolf. And it's not part of the Canidae family. Named after Earth. So it was called in English the earth wolf, because their love for termites and their love for ants. Oh, so talking of the Canidae family, I believe Deirdre has found some bat-eared foxes.
Yeah. I can get on.
What did she say?
Oh, sorry about that. I don't know what's happened to Deirdre, Davy, or the foxes, but you're back with us. And these are not bat-eared foxes. They are spotted hyenas. Not doing very much, I'm afraid. Oh, we've got someone at the entrance. Do you see how I'm laughing at my own jokes? No one else laughs at them. Now, we spoke this morning, if any of us watching, about the claws of lions and how they should be called protractable rather than retractable. But either way, they're protected in sheaths. Now, you can see, even just looking at this gorgeous little cubby here, the nails are out, the claws are out. They never retract or protract, whichever way you want to look at it. And there's no sort of protective sheath to keep them in. One reason that definitely makes them not in the cat family, that's for sure. Oh, it's sleepy time. So this time, I'm going to send you guys across to Andrew and his sleepy lions.
Thanks, Lauren. So I'm still sitting here with this pride of lions, and again, they haven't actually done anything yet. Not even a single one that stood up since we sent you over. But it's getting to a time where now it's light. I mean, we're using actually different light, as everyone can see. So IR, which able to provide light for everyone to able to see them, because we can't put the normal spotlight on them, in case they would able to get on, do a little bit of the movement. And I was suggesting that first thing they're going to go to the Gari Dam, which is right here. and to drink first, and then from there they would probably decide which way they're going to go. I'm not sure. It looks like they came from slightly southwest area from this direction where they find themselves in right now, where I believe if there is going to be any movement, if they don't go north, maybe they will return back to quarantine, maybe to check what it's around there. Well, I drove past a lot of Impala coming down this way, and they have to follow exactly where there's a lot of a food source, and that's what makes them able to feed. They can't keep on and on wandering around the places where there's no food source for them. But, we saw zebra far. I mean, not a zebra, but the wildebeest far away. That was actually the western boundary. So none of them in quarantine. So that would be actually a good chance of medium size for these whole pride, able to feed all of them in here. They sometimes can sleep until late. Kevin, you want to know how long lion can stay without food? So I've seen lion die of starvation. That was actually that injured take places. So it's probably a week, and then all lost condition. Eventually you find him the other day, which just died. Depending, sometimes when they're not injured, just because of maybe that happens, there's no such a food for them to hunt around. Nothing they can eat, not even a lizard, nothing, not even tortoises. So they can go a week. I think it's pretty much enough for all cats to be able to survive. And then they actually, after a week, then of course you see them starting to lose the condition. They won't die the very first week, but the second week they would actually get very much losing condition, and that cat will probably see them quite a lot of time, drink water. So water would actually make them to run their life slightly longer, but indeed they need to actually feed. So a week or two, it would roughly can stay without food. But if they're healthy enough, just like these cats we're looking at right now, which they were able to rely on so many of other different food sources, not only impalas, not only these big game, scrub hair or anything that die, they can scavenge, and they can go for, when they're older, all the carcasses, if it's possible, and then just to feed, to stay alive. And it's always so bad when the lion separate from the pride, find himself lost from the pride. It makes a lot of difficult for them to be able to hunt on their own, where in the pride they plan their hunting, and how do they approach if it's very open, all just spread around, and finally they corner whatever it is. And able to, whoever's killing in there, it's fine, doesn't matter, but corporate feed take places. If there is no dominant male in that area, if it's then the dominant male involved in it killing, if there's impala, which is small for the whole of this pride, then he will be worried too much that they're going to empty it up. So all he does, he's going to hold it back and growl or fight everybody away from that carcasses. So all he does just to take for himself, feed for himself. So I'm going to take another moment with this pride of lions, and then I'm going to be sending you over to Lauren again with her hyenas.
unbelievable what's been going on here. And Tima's been very aggressive towards Heart. Oh, they've stopped. The vocalizations were incredible. Ribbons appeared, Heart's here, and Tima's here. Everybody's disappearing now. Wow. And Tima was biting the back of Heart's neck. Tails were up, and Tima and Ribbon's tails were erect, right up. A real display of dominance. And that's exactly what it was. They were not really trying to hurt Heart. That's how the matriarch and, well, her second in charge and Tima exert their power. That's how they show the others. Just a little reminder in case you've forgotten that I'm still the matriarch, okay? Don't go getting any ideas here. That's the sort of message that was. There was a little bit of licking and sniffing. It was incredible. But overall, the message was, I'm still in power. Don't ever forget that. And off they go into the dark, just like that. Nocturnal predators have disappeared into the darkness. Except Heart, of course. That's not a very ladylike way to sit, dearest Heart. Chris, I really don't think so. Male hyenas, whether you're a natal male or an immigrant male, you're still part of the clan. Yes, you're definitely not at the top of that food chain. You're definitely, well, you're not treated so well by the females, shall we say. They abuse you from time to time. They take advantage of you. But you're still part of the clan. You're still part of the Djuma clan. And they need you. The females need you for your sperm. So they can't be too mean to you all the time. And it's very, very unlikely that they would hurt a cub. Just like Swazi this morning. Now, Swazi's a young male, but he was very excited. He was so excited, a bit boisterous. So, technically speaking, a male could hurt a cub indirectly or accidentally. There could be an injury. But the males would not come in and kill the cubs. Absolutely not. No, not within their own clan. Now, if it was a neighbouring clan or a rival clan, I'm not sure what would happen. It can be very aggressive between adults. But within their own clan, their own society, no, they wouldn't hurt them intentionally. Absolutely not. You're very intrigued by cubs when you watch the males. It's like, how did these things come around? How on earth are they here? What are they? Little did they know that they're behind it. Now, if Heart moves off and it looks like she's about to, we have to leave. Heart, there's a hippo up at the Ngala Dam if you're hungry. And off she goes into the darkness. There is not a single adult in sight that I can see with my naked eye, but I can't see very much. So that means we leave the den now. But it's been wonderful. But we can't stay here when there's no adults. Okay, it's a final goodbye from Heart. She's turning around to see us all. But we are going to leave the hyena den now, but we're going to send you lot all the way down to Tswalu and those bat-eared foxes.
Way around, but...
No, we don't have to go there now. We'll test next time.
Yeah. I think if we come again in the afternoon...
What they used to... Sorry about that. We still here with our pride of line. Always seen one of the few of them heads up, and they all just went down flat again. So they haven't actually decided to move on. But it's a great chance, it's cloudy, which cats prefer when it's like that. They can be able to walk through without getting seen so much. That's why it comes so much over our nocturnal animal. Because for them to be able to carry on hunt during the night, and a lot of a killing it happened during the day, can kill during the day, because they're all in a group. When they push off the prey species, since they position themselves around, chance that whatever is running into position of the very much static cat will just gonna pounce on it and kill it. But in night, like this, everybody concentrate and they do their normal hunt. And this is where most cats do a lot of a communication calling, where I don't think they will call right now. Nobody missing here, except that they don't actually have a male, a walker with them. But they won't just going to communicate, calling him out. No need for that. Wherever they are, I had one who was actually seen up north finishing off that hippo carcass. They usually do that. Move away from their pride. And then for that, it's actually good that it's, just a rain that happened yesterday or throughout the night. Most of these animals that they scent mark by chemical urinating, more likely that they scent mark usually washed off by the rain. So there would be so much of reactivating their scent, where female will help them, but they have to do themselves when they're away from this pride. And they even separate from the part from where they are. Each one takes its own route. There's no problem about that. The only problem is when they outnumber, here comes another strong coalition of male. Of course, he will get killed because he's outnumbered. And this is how sometimes I'll see the coalition of male going down. Once they separate from one another, there's a chance they might lost a fight, and that way then it's going to be so much of problem for this pride. If for example, if they have a very much young age, they're more than likely to be wiped off by a new arrival. So it's so much of politics happening as cats. I won't tolerate somebody else's gene pool. The new males coming in, they will be looking forward to develop their own gene pool within the pride, not to take care of somebody else's gene pool. But there was a young female which they're already 4 years. Of course, they would be welcomed or even maybe be mounted to reproduce. So everyone, we're coming very much to the end of the show. So I just like to thank every one of you being part of the show here. And we'll be ending the show like this with this pride of line, but tomorrow we'll be doing the same. So we're pretty much going to be following up on them just to see what they will be up to for us. Goodbye.